What's going on, guys? How's it going? It's your boy Papa React, and we are back with another fire build. Today we're going to be learning Tailwind CSS, which is going to be so much fun. And now I get excited when we have builds, right? But this one is, oh my god, this one is going to be fun because I personally am now a huge fan of CSS, and by the end of this video it's my mission to make you guys not only have your own little Google search engine but also be loving Tailwind CSS. What's up, guys? Tell me where you're tuning in from. Smash that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what we're going to be building in today's build. Now if you do want a sneak peek, go ahead and head over to sunnysanga.com and you're going to see the Google search yourself. Now I have got the dummy key on the Sunny Sanga website, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what we're going to build today. So this is Google 2.0 with Next.js. Remember guys, we love Next.js now. Next.js server-side rendering, okay? And we have our infamous search bar, which is using the Google API, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and type in Sunny Sanga. I hit enter, boom. This is not the actual Google, guys. This is our Google that we built. And also guys, just to add a little bit of icing on the cake, this build is fully, yes, I said it, fully responsive, okay? So this is gonna be a hell of a lot of fun. You guys are gonna learn so much in today's build. If you're excited, just smash that thumbs up button and let's get into this, okay? Now let me go ahead and show you the responsive features of today's build. So when we go ahead and resize the page, check out what happens, guys. So you can see everything is going to go ahead and resize. Now I want you to pay close attention to these icons at the top right here, okay? Now check out what happens. As I go ahead and shrink it, boom, hits a breakpoint, changes, perfectly resizes, even the text changes size. And look at this, guys, we have nice little hover animations and everything like that, okay? And also guys, to top it off, your boy couldn't just leave it there, right? I had to go ahead and add an additional functionality. We have pagination. Yes, I said it, we have pagination. Thank you, Praveen, for the lovely donation. Look at this, guys. If I go ahead and hit the next button, then we get the next page. And then it goes ahead and says previous or next. So if I go ahead and click next page, boom, we go ahead and we'll get a third additional page and so forth, okay? Now if I click previous, there you go, it works, right? Now you guys can go ahead and check this out for yourself if you want right now. If you go ahead and head over to sunnysanga.com. Oh, there you go. Nice little donation came in. Hey from France. Tell me where you guys are tuning in from, guys. Let me know. I'm excited to hear. Now guys, I'm going to go ahead and break down this build before we get started. But before we get started, guys, today's build is sponsored by the amazing guys over at Hostinger. Now Hostinger is a beautiful platform, and if you didn't already see, we used it in WhatsApp 2.0. But let me go ahead and just jump in as to why I think you should be using Hostinger, because what we're going to do at the end of today's build is deploy Google 2.0 just like you see it right now on sunnysanga.com. You guys are going to be able to do the exact same thing, and your boy sorted you out with a nice little discount if you use code Sunny at checkout. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you guys. This is Hostinger. These guys are the ones who are making today's video possible. And guys, what you need to, oh wow, we got loads of people tuning in from around the world. This is awesome, guys. I love seeing everyone from international space. This is incredible. Now guys, a few things to mention. Firstly, they're so cheap. They are honestly so cheap, right? This is a hosting platform, and the best thing about these guys is that, one, I've used them, so your boy is vouching for himself. It's easy to set up. They're just insanely fast websites. There's no slow, you know, once you get your site up, is it really crap and slow? Nope, they're extremely quick. If you have experience with WordPress, it's gonna work out of the box. We have 24/7 chat over at Hostinger. Now, this is something that me and Jay also used, so I can vouch for it. It's pretty damn good, okay? And there's a bunch of other stuff. Now, one thing I will mention is their H panel. Now, the H panel, if you've ever used a hosting platform, the C panel is what you usually deal with. That's where you typically get a bit of a headache because it doesn't make sense. It just gets confusing. I'm going to break it down and show you guys just how easy it is, right? So they do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and you're going to get free SSL certificates when you deploy your website, which is, again, saving you a bit of money, okay? So first link in the description, if you want to go ahead and set up a hosting account, use Sunny at checkout for 7% off your annual plan. And those guys made today's video possible, okay? So let's go ahead, use that link. Your boy sorted you out. Second link in the description. And without further ado, I think we should get started, guys. Let me know, shall we get started in this build? Let's go ahead and drop this one, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys one more time what we're building today. And we're going to break this down really nicely, okay? So we have a sticky tab at the top of the page right here. We have our server-side rendering. So if you've never done server-side rendering, today is the day that you're going to learn it, okay? So you're going to learn about server-side rendering today. Now, I do want to mention, we have a few extra things here. So let's go ahead and resize even on the home page. And you can see down here, guys, guess what we're using? CSS Grid. We're using CSS Grid today as well as Flexbox. So again, it's just so much. It's so much in a video, and it's going to be so much fun. I promise you, it's going to be so much fun. And yeah, I'm going to teach you guys how to go ahead and do amazing little animations like this when you hover over and you click in, as well as these buttons. We aren't using Material UI today. We're using literally Tailwind CSS to make all of this possible. So yeah, this is going to be an absolutely crazy build. You can see we've got loads of functionality inside of this build today. And guys, like I said, smash the thumbs up button. Let's go ahead and get started in today's build. Now, I am going to go ahead and drop the Papa Found playlist because I know you guys love that. You can go ahead and actually get access to the entire playlist if you sign up to the newsletter. The newsletter is in the description, and it makes the whole thing, oh, it just makes it so nice to code with, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, start off our, our Papa Found playlist, and then we can go ahead and jump into our coding. So let's do this, guys. First thing we want to do is set up our next app, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, pop open my terminal. Let's do this. Let's open up a terminal. And then I'm going to go ahead, get into my correct directory. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my documents. Documents. There we go. And build folder. Nice. And then once we're inside of it, we're going to be using something called Create Next App, okay? Now, if you haven't ever used Next, I'm going to make it extremely simple for you to actually go ahead and use Next, okay? So Next.js, what is it and why should you be concerned with it? Next.js is a platform, it's a framework for React, right? And it's going to allow you to do server-side rendering. Now, server-side rendering is incredibly powerful, and I'm going to break it down for you today. So if you don't know what server-side rendering is, do not be afraid. This is going to be beginner friendly, and I will make sense of it. You guys will literally be able to deploy an app at the end of this build. We're going to deploy using Vercel, and then I'm going to show you how to link it to hosting us. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's going to be so much fun, guys. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. You can go ahead and click on the getting started point if you don't know where to get started, but all you need is this npx create next app command. Okay, so once you've got that open, all we need to do is go ahead and say create npx create next app, and we're going to call R1 Google 2, and I'm going to say YouTube. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. Now, once that's going to go ahead and once you hit enter on that, it's going to go ahead and spin up the build process. So this will go ahead and prepare a Next.js app. Okay, now for those of you asking about TypeScript, your boy always is learning new things, always going ahead and making that knowledge digested so that way I can simplify it to teach it to you guys. I do know and I do use TypeScript, but I will be dropping that in a future video to come. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and you know how your boy's going to do it. I'm going to always deliver on that stuff. Okay, so guys, let's go ahead and carry on. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my folder, Google to YouTube. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit code. Okay, so I'm going to type in code dot to pull up VS Code in the desired directory. Okay, so this will go ahead and get everything set up nicely for me. Now I am going to have it in a separate window like so. Okay, and then once we've got this open, guys, okay, so in order to keep up with today's build, because it will be a bit intense, it will be a bit fast. Okay, so your guy not only went and got you a coupon code for hosting, but I also sorted you out with the guys over at Tabnine. Tabnine is going to help you keep up with today's build. So I highly recommend you go ahead and install it before we get started. Just hit the extension on the side, click on Tabnine and click on the enable or install button, and it's going to pretty much go ahead and kickstart your Tabnine experience. Okay, so that's how you go ahead and get started. And now what you're going to love about Tabnine is its autocomplete AI. As you type, there is machine learning behind it, guessing what you're going to type next and providing suggestions. Now, I don't typically recommend this stuff, but Tabnine is a game changer. 1.76 million people agree with me. And guys, I've helped you out with that one. So hit the first link in the description, go ahead, and it's completely free. Okay, so completely free to go ahead and get started with that. It's extremely powerful. It supports all the modern programming languages. So even if you want to touch on some Python down the line, it has a free forever basic plan. I'm on the pro plan because, you know, that's how we do. And it has access to a deep machine learning model. Okay, so if you've ever heard of OpenAI GP2, it's got that behind it. Okay, so it's really, really good stuff. It's completely safe. They encrypt everything when it goes back and forth. So you don't have to worry about, you know, hackers and all that stuff. It's all good. It uses deep learning. So the more you use it, the better it's going to get. So now that we're done with that, All right, we have Tabnine set up. We have everything kind of set up on our machine. I think we should just go ahead and absolutely kickstart. Samrat just kickstarted the party with a $10 donation. Thank you so much, dude. And guys, honestly, the Papa fam is growing so fast. I just want to say before we start, thank you. Massive thank you, because you guys are incredible. And this is why I do what I do, okay? So let's go ahead and jump in. So if we go over to our files, you can see Next.js has a slightly different layout, okay? So Next.js, we have the pages folder. Now pages resembles your app, okay? So you know previously when we use React, we have a React router. Now React router signifies for whenever we want to go ahead and go onto a web page. Let's say I want to go to the home page, it's typically at index.js, right? What if I want pages like /search, or if I want pages like /home, right? How do I do that? Typically, we're used to using something called React router. Now in Next.js, we have a built-in router. So it works by basically the name of your file is going to be the page root. Okay, so in this case, we're going to have index.js and then search, which will resemble /search. Okay, so that'll make a lot of sense as we go ahead and get practicing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, hit index.js, hit Command J, and then I'm going to go ahead and do yarn dev. Okay, now you can see there's a package lock. I prefer yarn, so the easy way to switch it up is to go ahead and I think Meban's in the house. Where is she at? Oh, there, my beautiful girlfriend's in the house. Right, so we're gonna go ahead and click in. Whoa, Ryan Deveni says, just got my first web dev job. You helped tremendously get me from beginner, intermediate to professional. You're a pro for real. Whoa, we got a $25 donation. Thank you so much, dude. And then Yassine goes, landed my first job because of your clones. This is incredible. Thank you so much, guys. I can't see Meban. She's buried in the chat. Harsha, thank you so much. This is incredible. Wow. This is actually crazy. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. We're going to switch from NPM to yarn. I'm going to type in yarn dev. And well done, Ryan and Yassine. Both of you guys getting jobs. That's incredible. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit yarn dev. Okay, actually before that, I'm going to type in yarn, right? I'm going to do yarn, but I'm going to delete the package lock, right? So you delete your package lock and you type in yarn, and then that will switch you from NPM to yarn. Okay, so you don't want to have two lock files ever. You just want one. Hey, there she is, my beautiful girlfriend. Nice, all right? So wait until this goes ahead and fetches and installs all the required dependencies. Now, while that's doing that, what do we need to set up in the meantime? Okay, we've got Tailwind CSS, and now this is the new bit of tech that we're going to be learning in today's video. Okay, so Tailwind allows us to rapidly build our site without ever leaving the HTML. Now, I don't know about you guys, okay, but there was an upgrade when we had our typical external CSS files. And then we started to use things like CSS modules, styled components. Styled components were even better because we didn't have to leave the file. But now Tailwind is an absolute game changer. Tailwind allows us to build responsive sites extremely fast, and they look amazing. They are literally, if you've ever liked Bootstrap, you're going to absolutely love Tailwind. And I wasn't actually a fan of Bootstrap. If you're an OG on this channel, I didn't like Bootstrap for a very long time, but Tailwind has won my heart over. I'm going to be using Tailwind in every build. And in particular, if you know about it, we're going to use the new version of Tailwind, which is Tailwind JIT, which means just-in-time compiler. So I'm going to show you how to do all of this. Don't worry, okay? So we're going to click on Get Started. Now, here you can see version 2.1.0 is what we're using, the absolute latest and greatest. We're going to click on Installation. I'm going to click on the Next.js Integration Guide. Whoa, Joe La just dropped in with it. I think that's Australian $10. Guys, you guys are on fire, man. Thank you. This is so sick. You guys are like, look, pump me up. I was thinking, like, where's the energy coming from today? But you guys are actually, oh my God, I always get overwhelmed, you know? You guys are all OGs. Honestly, everyone here, I know you've been watching for a while. And if you're new to the channel, hell yeah, welcome. We're growing. We're already at 30,000 subscribers. Incredible stuff. This is a family, the biggest community there is. We're going to click on Next.js, okay? Now, here you can see we created our project already. We need to set up Tailwind CSS. All right. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to do npm install, but I'm not doing npm install. So I'm just going to grab this last bit, and this is all the dependencies I'm going to need. Okay. So I'm going to copy that. And then guys, we're almost at 300 likes. Smash that thumbs up button. It will help the channel grow. It will help this video push out to as many people as possible. I will add timestamps on this video as soon as it's done as well. So you got me. I got you there. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit yarn, add, and I'm going to do -d and then all of those dependencies. Okay. Now this is going to go ahead and install Tailwind into our project. And Next.js, by the way, guys, is a framework for React. Okay, so I saw somebody ask, why are you not using React? We are using React. It has Next.js on top. Okay, it's a framework for React. Right, so now we've gone ahead and installed that correctly. We've got everything up and running. The next thing we need to do is create the config files. So again, Tailwind make this extremely simple. Just copy this command over here, and then let's go over here and type in npx tailwind css init-p. Right, this will create 2 configuration files in our directory, okay? So what we need to do now is inside of Tailwind config, we just have to change a little setting. Right, now remember, I said we're using the latest and greatest Tailwind, okay? So they have a great video on their channel, so you go ahead and subscribe to Tailwind because they are amazing and I support them massively. But they're using something called JIT. It's a new sort of just-in-time compiler, and it allows you to basically go ahead and generate the styles that you need when you need them at build, at runtime, okay? So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and change the Tailwind config from its original config to this new compiler, okay? So this new compiler is the shit, right? It's the good stuff, okay? So here I'm gonna say JIT, right? And then we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now, that will go ahead and it's not actually listed here because that's a different step. There is a nice little page where you can go to just in time mode that will show you, they've got a nice video about what it does, how it speeds up the build process incredibly, like a huge amount, okay? And this is how you enable it. So this is what we did right here. And then this is the next step, but we're doing a slightly different thing. So just do mode JIT. And then what you wanna do is come back over here and we wanna go down to our purge. So here, you want to grab these files over here. Now this is basically going to go ahead and we need to tell Tailwind, okay? So it uses something called purge CSS, and this is important because it tells Tailwind that this is the pages that you should care about, right? Think of it like that, right? This is the page that usually you need to scan for, right? So we're going to be using Tailwind in these files and you need to like clean them out, okay? So just think of it in that sense, and that will keep it very simple, okay? So now what I'm going to do is go over to purge and I'm just going to copy in those files. So this is /pages. This is where all of our pages inside of our app live. And then we have /components. And we're also going to create a folder here for our individual components afterwards. Okay. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, guys, I've got another thing to say. Smash that thumbs up button if you want React Native, right? So smash that. I'm only going to do it if I get those likes. Okay. So your boy will teach you React Native if you go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Right, but right now, Next.js and Tailwind, it's fun, guys. It's so fun. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. Now, with that done, we should have everything set. The final step include Tailwind in your CSS. So we just need to go ahead and grab these last one here. So at Tailwind right here, and then we're gonna go ahead and go into our styles, global, and I'm gonna grab everything inside of global and delete it and paste Tailwind inside. Okay, and this home.module.css, we don't even need that anymore. Okay, we're not using module CSS in this build. Right, so once we've done with that, we've actually officially set up Tailwind. So congratulations, it's all done. Okay, everything's working nicely. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and, whoa, I can see those likes coming right up after I said the React Native comment. Don't worry, I got you guys. And then we're gonna click on index. Now let's go ahead and actually see something on the screen. All right, suddenly you're like, we wanna see something, right? So what you need to do, type in yarn dev. So it's not npm start on Next.js, it's yarn dev. Now I do have something running, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and do yarn dev. Now, if I didn't already mention, this is going to be using Google's API today. I'm going to show you how to get your own keys. All you need is a Google account to get started with that. Okay, so just bear in mind that you're going to need a Google account when we get to that point. Okay, so we've got the app up and running. So now what we need to do, you should get this message where it says you have enabled JIT engine, which is currently in preview. Okay, so once it says that, that's good. That's exactly what we want to see. And then what I'm going to do is open up another window, pull this into this page over here, so that way we can see our code. And I'm going to type in a localhost 3000. Okay. Now you can see it's failed to resolve home.module.css. That's correct because we deleted it. Hence in index.js, we need to delete line 2. And then I'm going to go inside of here and get rid of everything from main. Okay. So down here, everything from main and everything inside of footer. We want a fresh, clean slate. Okay. Now, once I've got that done, I'm going to type in H1 and I'm going to say, let's build Google with Next.js and Tailwind, right? I'm going to hit save. Now let's see what happens, guys. Let's go ahead and wait for it. It says styles is not defined. That's because class name here, we can go ahead and delete this class name. Thank you so much, Developers Next, for that lovely little donation. Appreciate you, dude. and I'm going to hit save, and there you go. This is where we should see, right? This is what you should see at this point. Now, if you're at this point, let me know in the chat right now. You know, like this is actually going to be simpler to follow along if you have Tabnine. All right, Tabnine is going to help you keep up to speed with the build. So trust me, it's worth it. Okay, guys. All right. So here we have Google with Next.js and Tailwind. And at that point, we're done. I'm joking. We're not done yet. Okay. Quick water break, and then we're going to go ahead and jump onto how to use Tailwind CSS. Right, so we have 350 viewers watching right now across platforms. Thank you so much, guys. Remember, we do stream on Twitch, so make sure you're subscribed. Now, a lot of you guys are watching right now and aren't subscribed, okay? Which is crazy, right? If you're watching it and you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe and it will just help this channel grow. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and let me show you the benefit and beauty of Tailwind CSS. So the thing I love about Tailwind CSS is that we don't actually ever need to leave our HTML file or our JSX file. Okay, instead now everything happens in the class name. Okay, so we've got our class name over here, and I'm gonna go ahead and type in, let's go ahead and say H10, right? So this will go ahead and change the height of this component to a 10. So if I go ahead and change it to a P, then we can see, you see what happened here, guys? It gave it a padding of 10 around it. Okay, now this is called a design system. Okay, so we can't just type in random numbers here, right? But what's really nice about this is we will go ahead and it will work in the way that we expect it to, and everything just looks clean and fresh, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys something now. Now the first thing I want you to do is actually go ahead and get this extension, because this will help you out quite a lot, guys. Okay, so what we're going to do is go ahead and get the extension for, it's called Tailwind. Okay, so if you go ahead and get the extension for Tailwind CSS, okay, so Tailwind CSS IntelliSense, and what you need to do is just install this extension. This will give you autocomplete, which will help you out a huge amount, okay? Because as you type in these class names, it's going to be kind of tricky to remember what you can actually type in next. Now, this IntelliSense will help you out because as you type in, you see it gives you the different colors and all sorts. Right now, there are tons of benefits when you're using Tailwind CSS. Now, I'm going to give you a quick run through of a few of those before we get started. So I'm not going to spend too long, but you can see pretty much you have different sizes that are built into the system, different color schemes out of the box, different shadow elements, which are really nice. How many times have we been sitting on a website and we need that box generator off Google? And you see, just with certain class names, you can go ahead and get such a different look and feel to your application. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and use all of this. What's up, guys? I can see Samit in the house and a few other OGs. What's up, guys? It's good to see you again. And instead of material UI icons, we're going to be using hero icons, which work natively with Tailwind. Okay, so that's how we're going to power up our icons in today's build. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump back into our code. So at this point, we've got the H1. Now I showed you how we can pretty much, now we'd never have to leave the file, which is actually going to be easier for you guys to follow me, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pop this over like this. I think that'll be easier for you guys to see. Okay, so all you need to do now, we never have to leave this file. Okay, if I want flex, I can apply flex like this. If I want flex column, I can go ahead and do this, and it will go ahead and apply a flex column direction. Okay, so there's loads of benefits to being able to use this right now. Okay, there's tons and tons of benefits, and also, in my opinion, it's so easy to actually remember how to do more complicated things with Tailwind, because you don't have to remember the exact CSS. You just remember these like nice utility classes, what they're called in CSS, in Tailwind CSS, and it just goes ahead and does it nicely for you. Now, when we're using Tailwind CSS, you have to make sure you follow a mobile first design principle. This means that we design for the mobile first, and then we use breakpoints to go ahead and scale up on larger screens. I'm going to show you how to do it. Typically, these breakpoints are resembled by an SM for small, MD for medium, LG for large, extra large is XL, and then it goes up to 2XL and 3XL. Each one is going to resemble a different size. For example, without any breakpoint, it's a mobile. It's going to be the smallest size. So that's going to be our first set of classes. The second thing, whenever you see an SM, it's going to mean SM means apply this class after we hit a small screen, right? And when we hit MD, it's going to be after we hit a medium screen, apply this class. Okay, so this is how we go ahead and read Tailwind CSS. It will make a lot of sense right now, okay? All right, so first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and actually have a look at what we're going to be building. Okay, so we're going to aim to build this homepage. Oh, there we go. This one right here. Okay, so this is the end goal right now for the homepage. We're going to start with the homepage and then we're going to progressively move on. So the first thing in Next.js, so this is actually Next.js, we have this nice little head component. Okay, so the head component is really, really nice because you can do extremely cool things such as, please don't spam the chat, guys. We can do really, really nice. Thank you, Samit, coming in clutch with that $5 coffee. I actually have a awesome little coffee mug today because I thought, you know, like let's go ahead and have our coffee while we do our live. We're at 400 people watching right now. This is amazing. Thank you so much, guys. Okay. So with that said, we've got the head over here. Okay. Now head is going to go ahead and allow us to change things like this little title at the top over here. So you see right now it says create next app. I want that to say Google because we're making a Google clone. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this. Mohammed says, really appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate you. Let's go ahead and hover over them. Now it says Google. That's amazing. Now I do want a disclaimer. We're not by any means claiming that we're Google today. Okay. We're just saying that we're creating a Google-like clone. Okay. Because we love Google. Right. So now we've got this over here. Now what we're going to do is we're not going to change the icon, but if you wanted to change it, then feel free to do it. Okay. That's homework for you guys. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start off with the header. So the header is what I consider this top half over here. Now you're going to see how easy it is to get this working. Okay. So we're going to break this up into a few different sections. The first bit is going to be a header. Okay, so we're going to have our header component at the top. Now this will resemble this nice little top part. And then we've got the body, right? Now the body is going to be all of the thing, like all of this underneath, right? Underneath, oops, not that bit, underneath the header. Okay, so anything underneath the header or above the footer is the body. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and say, oh, we're going to say body. I love the excitement. Coach says, Sonny, this is fire. Let's do it, dude. Okay, and guys, if you want the code and you want to code along with me, the Papa GitHub repo is down below in the description. Easy to get, easy to grab. You guys can follow it along. I've already pushed the code as well. So incredible stuff, okay? We've got the body, and then we're going to go ahead and have a footer underneath that. Now, guys, I've upgraded the Papa Fan playlist, so these beats are getting better and better and better. So honestly, just go ahead and sign up to the newsletter if you want them, and I'll send you it to you. All right, so we've got the header up here. So first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to be using the correct classes. We're going to say this is a header at the top. Okay. Then we're going to have two divs, right? We're going to have a div for the left. Okay. So remember, whenever you're working in a sort of a CSS fashion, right? We're going to have two divs. We're going to have a left div and a right div. Okay. So with that said, wow, we have so many comments today. The energy is popping today, guys. Let's go ahead and hit 500 likes. I think we can do it together. All right, thank you so much, Developers Nest. Keep posting such great content. Love from India. Thank you so much, dude. All right, let's go ahead and do this. So now what we're going to do is we got the header open. I'm going to create a div, right? And this div is going to be responsible for the left section, okay? And then I've got another div, and this div is going to be responsible for the right section, okay? I'm going to go ahead with the right section. There we go. Now, with this open, we're going to go ahead and input the correct things that we need. So I'm going to have a p tag which says about and a p tag which says store. Okay. So I'm going to have a p tag which says about, and then I'm going to have another p tag which says store. And then we should see those pop in right here. Okay. So I'm going to eventually get to this point where it looks somewhat like this. Okay. Now on this one, we're going to go ahead and have on the right hand side, we're going to have a p tag which says Gmail, and we're going to have another one which says images. Okay. Now, obviously, you can feel free to change these to A tags or a href, with a href inside if you'd like, right? But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Now, we do need an icon here, and then we need an avatar. Now, typically, we use Material UI for our avatars, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to do this inside of Tailwind CSS. Okay. So with that done, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how you can pretty much go ahead and lay this out. So I'm going to hit save. And we've got about, store, Gmail, images, okay? So the first thing I want to do is, and any of the moderators, please go ahead and, moderate the chat. So just time out if people are spamming, things like that. It will help us out and it'll keep the chat clean, okay? Thank you, guys. All right. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and, all right. And guys, I will just block if you do that, all right? So let's keep it clean. All right. So now we've got the header. Now what I'm going to do is inside of each of these small containers, I'm first going to style those Okay, so inside this div, I'm first going to say class name. And then here I'm going to say flex. And I want to do a flex a space of 4, space x4. Now this means, okay, so firstly, let's go ahead and have a look at this. So if I type in flex, it will do display flex on the container, which is why these went into a row. Okay. The next thing I can do, which is really nice, is I can type in space x4, which means space all of the children x components along, right? I can space them out with a spacing of 4 pixels, which is really nice. Okay, that's actually really, really clean. Typically we'd go ahead and do margin right, margin left, all that stuff, but this in my opinion is a lot cleaner. And then I'm going to do items center, which basically aligns them on the vertical axis centrally, so that will help out when we have some padding. Okay, the next one, the right hand section, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say flex, I'm going to say class name, and I'm going to say flex space x of 4, space x of 4. Right, and that will give us a spacing of 4 on the x-axis, and I'm going to do the same thing, item center, Tabnine coming in clutch. Okay, now you can go ahead and see we have the two things in this case. Now these two containers are flex, which is why they're in a row. So the header now, I need to make that a flex. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do class name, and here I'll say flex, and now we should see everything go into a row, because by default flex is, you know, as we know it, it puts things into a row. Okay, I'm going to make this actually a little bit bigger so you guys can see this. Okay, now when we have flex as such, right, firstly I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger as well. There we go, that should help you guys out. Right, so that what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say by default, okay, I want to use the full width of the page. So we type in W for the width, and then here I do dash full, right, and it means that it will now use the full width in this container. So if I want to show you this in perspective, I'm going to change the background color to, let's just say a red, and let's just do 500. And you can see now it's using up the entire sort of, you know, it's using up the entire width. But what I want to do is I'm actually going to force it to use up the entire width once we have a few things in place. So I'm going to say width 4. I'm going to say padding of 5. Nice. Okay. And then I'm going to say justify between. Right. So this will push the components so that there's space between them. So this is the same as saying justify content space between. Okay. So that's how we get this effect. And you can see these are just shortcuts. Right. So this is actually just a simple shortcut, which will go ahead and translate to flex rule, which is like the same as saying justify space between. Okay, so we have that working really nicely. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and type in, we want this text to be small, so I'm going to make it text small, and I want it to be a gray text. Okay, so I want this to be a little bit of a gray text. I'm going to say text gray 700. Now if you're wondering what I'm doing here, right, what we're saying is get the text, change it to gray. Right, and there's a few different colors that we can use. So remember, there was a color palette in Tailwind CSS. So if you go up here, you can pretty much see they have a nice little color palette. This is just a sample of some of them. And you can pretty much go ahead and you've got all of the colors from 50 up until, so you've got 100, 200, 300, 400, and 900. And this will give you the different shades of color in their color palette, which is really nice. Okay, really, really clean. Okay, so we're going to use gray 700. Okay, which is clean, 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 and it looks really nice. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that at this point. What I'm gonna now do, and if I wanted to go ahead and, for example, change this text to a massive one, we can go ahead and do text large, and you see how the text changed size. Okay, so extremely simple stuff. So once we've got that working, I want all of these to basically look and feel like a link. Okay, so what if I want to have a class name in Tailwind which is shared? Okay, if I want to have a class name which is shared amongst different things, but I want to have a custom class name. I actually want to have a class name which says link, right? And then this should actually give this a custom link fill to it, right? So the way I do that is I simply go into my global styles over here. And then once I've got my global styles open, I'll simply go ahead and I'll type in @layer components. Right, and this is basically going to inject our custom class, right, into the component layer, right? So you can go ahead and watch the Tailwind CSS video if you want to go ahead and understand that a little bit more. But basically all we're doing is these are the base classes that it comes with when we sort of install Tailwind. This is the classes that they give us, the ones that I'm using, all those fancy P-5, all of that stuff. But I'm going to inject my own into the component layer. And here I want to have a link class. Okay, and my link class, the way I can apply class names here is all I have to do is type in apply, right? And then this is the magic word, and I want it so that when I hover over this link, it basically gives it an underline. Nice. And I want to do a cursor pointer. Okay, so I'm going to do a cursor, dash pointer. There we go. And if I hit save on that, now, can you see how the first one gets that custom effect? And look at how we have these modifiers, guys. So this is what's really clean about Tailwind CSS is you can have a modifier with a colon and it will go ahead and apply the style like so. And basically what this is doing is it will just generate the CSS that we require. Okay, so it's extremely optimal. And if you're wondering, yeah, but is it better than writing this or, you know, the CSS? Now, guys, they do automatically purge out any of the CSS you don't use. So any of the unused CSS is just going to get pretty much deleted. So your final production build is going to be absolutely tiny. So don't worry if you wonder, you know, I'm not sure if this is going to be something I'd use in the future. Guys, we're almost at 500 likes. I love you guys. Appreciate everyone. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Now, guys, I want to mention that somebody says how to join your course. The course link is in the bio, guys. Literally, the course is papareact.com/course. You guys can jump in and join the Papa fam at 0 to Full Stack Hero. Okay. So now all I need to do to apply the link class to all of these is copy, and I'm going to do a little trick that I like to do, and I'm going to hold Option and click the end of these lines, and I get my multi cursor. So I say class name equals link, and now all of these are links. Awesome, right? So these are really, really nice. That we've got these little links that are working. Nice. Okay. So next thing I want to do is I want to have a picture. So let's go ahead and tackle the avatar. Right. So typically what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go over to, let's say, you know, something like Material UI and create and use their avatar. In this case, what I'm actually going to do is, because we're going to be using the avatar in two places, I'm going to create my own component. Right? I'm going to create my own avatar component. Right. And I want to show you how easy it is to do that inside of Tailwind CSS. So if I go ahead and outside of my pages directory, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to I'm going to click package.json. So I'm at that level. I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to create a folder called components. Okay. This is going to be responsible for using all of my reusable components inside of React. So pages is where the pages will live, like the home page, the search page. And then the components folder is where the reusable components will live. In our case, we have the avatar component. So I'm going to go ahead and add a file here and say avatar.js. Now, inside of avatar.js, I'm going to use our handy little snippets. I'm going to do _RFCE, which will go ahead and get the templated code for me. Now, bear in mind, guys, when we are using a Tailwind CSS, we don't have to do any extra step. I don't need to, you know, go ahead and create an external CSS file, anything like that. I can just start adding my CSS. It will work. Okay, because remember, we're checking the components folder inside of our Tailwind config. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and pass in. And if you're wondering, I will be using the actual image optimization in Next.js today. So that's something else that you can look forward to. Smash the thumbs up if you wanted to know how to use that. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass in a few props. So in React, we have components which accept props, which are properties. Now, ES6 allows us to do something called destructuring. Okay, so destructuring, what we can do is we can break apart an object like so, and I'm going to get the URL. Okay, so I'm going to pass in a URL, which is going to be the same, the picture. The GitHub repo link is broken. Okay. Oh, is it really? I didn't think it was. Okay, let me go ahead and I'll drop a link to you guys now. Don't worry about that, guys. We can go ahead and fix that for you. But in the meantime, I mean, it's working for me, so I'm not sure what everyone's talking about, but it seems pretty good for me. Okay, let me go ahead and I'll just go ahead and drop it to you guys. But guys, don't worry about all that. We can pretty much focus for now on this stuff. But yeah, there you go. I've just shared it. Okay, so there we have the URL. Okay, so I've got the avatar.js. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to basically change this from an image, a div, to an image tag. Right? So this is going to be a self-enclosed image tag. And now, for the image tag, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have loading lazy. So this is actually a good standard you should get used to doing. This means that the rest of the page can load even if your image hasn't finished loading yet. So this is what we refer to as lazy loading. Okay, lazy loading is a very good practice in production. You should get used to using lazy loading. Right now, next what we're going to say is source is our URL. Okay, and then I'm going to do alt, and then alt is just going to be, let's just say profile picture. Right, profile pic. And I'm going to hit save. Now, to get this working, I'm going to go back to my index.js, and where we had our avatar before, I'm going to go ahead and import the component. So I'm going to do Command spacebar or Control spacebar and import my component like so. Hit save, and we should see profile pic at the top. And this is happening because we're not passing in a URL. So here I'm going to type in URL, and I'm going to pass in the following URL. Okay, so you can feel free to copy this, or the code is available inside of the GitHub repo. Okay, so this one is simply going to be a URL, and I've actually shortened this URL, and it's coaching.papareact/A19, and it's a nice big picture of me. Right, so if you like your boy Papa React in a tux, then smash that thumbs up button. With that said, water break. Okay, this is cool, guys. I think we're going at a good pace. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to go ahead and make this look like this. Okay, we're going to have this looking like this nice thing over here, and I'm also going to cover the animation over here. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we get it looking like that? So it's actually very simple. At this point, we go to our avatar. This is where the magic's happening. So what I can do here is I can simply go ahead, class name, and here you can see it already start to try and guess what I'm doing next. But what I'm actually going to need here is I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is a H10. Okay, so a height of 10, and you can see it's already dropped. Right, so the height of 10 is how you write that. Okay, so it's a height of 10, and then I'm going to say rounded full. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this so I can emphasize this effect. But what's really nice here is if I type in rounded LG, you guys can see I get nice little rounded corners, right? But if I type in rounded full, and these are what we refer to as utility classes inside of Tailwind, how clean is that? And somebody just asked, why Tailwind, right? This is why I want to use Tailwind, because I can just type in rounded full and I get a circle. I don't have to do any kind of, border radius 999 or, like all of that crazy stuff. And we all know, we've all been there, right? We've all been there, and you guys know what I'm talking about. I hate it when I need to just do simple things and I'm like, oh, I need to find out what the CSS was for that. Now I don't have to remember anymore. I just type in rounded full, H10, and I get a height of 10. Happy days, right? So H10. There we go, rounded full. Then I'm going to type in cursor pointer, because when I hover over it, I want it to be a cursor pointer, right? So now you can see when I hover over this, I get my pointer, nice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in, I'm going to actually have an animation now, okay? So an animation is going to be something which we typically, we think of it as some long thing that's going to take a while, that's going to be, really difficult to build, but it's so easy here. All I type in is I type in transition, right? I type in duration, and duration I can put in 100, 150. They have certain values here, but I'm going to use 150. And then I'm going to say, okay, I want to transform the image, and I'm going to say, okay, just apply it when I hover, and change the scale of the image to 110%. Okay, now check this out. Boom. That's it. That is literally it. All right, and do you want to see something really cool, guys? All right, what's so fun about Tailwind is they even have these animate classes, right? So if I type in animate bounce, look at that, guys. Just from writing animate bounce, it starts to bounce. All right. You're probably looking at me like something you've never seen Tailwind CSS, but guys, I guarantee somebody here is learning something new, okay? So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool even for me. But you guys can see that we have animate bounce, right? So I'm gonna get rid of animate bounce. But in this case, look at that when I hover over it. So look, I can already see Leo's like, Tailwind is so cool. What the hell? Exactly, it blew my mind, right? So smash the thumbs up button. That doesn't happen in Google, so I'm upgrading Google a little bit, okay? All right, but you can see already, look how clean that is. And we barely did much there. Okay, keyframes has left the chat. Exactly. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and we're pretty much done with that avatar. Okay, so the avatar is working, it's pretty clean, so I can go ahead and get rid of my little markup. Okay, so you've got the left section, the right section, and then the icon. Now the icon, we're gonna use something called hero icons. Okay, so hero icons are these icons over here. Let's go ahead and click on documentation, and I can show you how to use it. So the first thing you want to do is install hero icons into your project. So here I'm going to use, rather than npm install, I'm going to do yarn add. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, pop open a second terminal, and then here what I'll do is I'll type in yarn add hero icons react. Okay, once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and wait for that. And this is an example of how you can import from hero icons, right? Now what you can do is typically, just like how we did in Material UI, you can go here and you can just search. So if I type in menu, for example, I get all the menus. Now you don't want to copy the SVG or JSX. You can use it directly as SVG or JSX if you really want to, but I recommend using the packaged versions inside of the component library. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, Fabian says, Papa React doing his thing. Yeah, dude, you know how we did it. All right. So now we have this up and running. That's pretty good, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the first example of an icon. Okay, so one of the icons that I'm interested in using is called View Grid Icon. Okay, and what's really good here is if I go ahead and just do an open bracket View Grid Icon. So typically I should get my autocomplete, but something didn't work there. But I'm going to go ahead and import View Grid Icon. Now again, I'll just show you the imports for this one, and you guys can go ahead and import them as you're watching back the video. Okay, so this is View Grid Icon and microphone icon, which I'm going to need in a second, from hero icons / React Solid. Okay, now remember there are two variants when you're selecting a icon. So in this case, if I type in View Grid, right, then you can see I've got the View Grid Solid variant and the View Grid Outline variant. Okay, so there's two variants when you're using hero icons. Okay, this is incredible stuff. And oh, nice. We've got a 14-year-old watching. He says, I'm 14 years old, watching from India. I wish you soon bring tutorials on React Native. Hell yeah, dude. I definitely will be bringing, Michael says, your energy enthusiasm is something else. That's what we do, man, you know? We have more people watching. We have nearly 500 people watching now, which is incredible. Welcome, guys. The Papa fam, you know, we're just growing every day, and I ain't going to stop. I'm not going to stop until we just completely crush it, okay? So today we have our beautiful sponsors hosting and Tabnine, who are going to help us achieve all of this amazing app that we're going to be building out. Okay. Next section that we're going to build is this little icon over here. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go ahead and go down here. I'm going to say class name equals, and then I'm going to say H10, right? Width of 10, right? And then this will go ahead and give it some kind of dimension, right? Into the CC, we've got a height and width of 10, right? And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, let's just give it some padding, right? I'm going to give it a padding of 2, right? And can you guys already see that this is so much cleaner than having, you know, different classes and then an external class file and messing around like that stuff. Now I don't have to mess around with all of that. I can simply go ahead and write my classes in here and it just works, right? And it's a lot quicker. I'm going to say rounded full because I want to have a little hover effect right now. And then I'm going to say hover. And when I hover, I'm going to change the background to a gray, and I'm going to use 100 on this scale. Remember, we have a scale which goes from 50 to I think it's 900. Okay, so we're going to use that scale, and then I want to change my cursor to a pointer. Tabnine coming in clutch. Now look at that, guys. So it's rounded full. We got the background on hover changing to a background gray, and then we have cursor pointer. And also what's very nice is when I look at this class in the beginning, it can be extremely kind of scary, right? Oh guys, we broke 500 likes. Nice. We're actually going to break 600 very soon, which is incredible. So let me go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. All right, get your family to smash it. Get everyone to smash that button. All right, so let's go ahead and hover over this, and you can see like the cursor pointer changes. This is why, and I trust me when I say that it is a bit scary when you first look at these class names. I understand that, right? But once you start getting used to how to read it, it's so good. It's so clean, right? So we're gonna go ahead and we're done with the header, right? So we're already done with the header. Let's move on to the body, okay? Let's carry on with the body. So the body is gonna be one large form, right? We don't need an action inside of it. It's gonna be a form. And then what we're gonna aim for here, guys, is this body right here. So the goal here is I can type in something like, let's just type in testing, hit enter, and then I get my search results, okay? So now what I'm gonna be doing is pretty much having, and this will be using the Next.js image component, which is a extremely good component that goes ahead and actually optimizes the image based on the device that you're watching it and things like that. So this is going to be out of the box, just something which you guys should be using, and it supports lazy loading by default. So I'm going to type in image with a capital I, that'll help. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Spacebar, and I should be able to import. So for some reason, whenever I'm live, my auto import doesn't work. So I'm going to show you the import that I'm going to have. And that's simply at the top over here. I'm going to say import image from next image. Okay. Now, once we have next image up in play, what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and move my camera. There we go. Once we have next image imported. So we have this. Then I'm going to go ahead and pass in the relevant props. Now here, there's a few props to be concerned with. The first one is a source. Okay, so we're all familiar with what a source is. So I'm just going to go ahead and I've got a picture from Google. Okay, so I've literally just got a normal picture from Google. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this and hit save. Okay, now we get this runtime error. And now it says width and height properties must be used. Okay, so we're going to pass in some width and height attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and pass in a width and height, a height of 100, a width of 300. Now, this is the interesting part. You're going to see this. It says invalid source prop. This address on next image, hostname Google, is not configured under images in your next config file. So whenever you use an image using the image component, you have to tell Next.js where to basically be ready for that image, because you don't want it to just start serving images. So they have this like layer of security. Think of it that way, okay? So what we can do here is we basically go ahead, open up our files, and we need something called a Next.js config. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in next.config.js. Okay, this is going to be responsible for our configuration. All right, so what I need to do here is I'm going to go ahead and pop in a snippet. So you just need to go ahead and write out module.export equals an object with images inside of it. And inside of that object, you've got a key of domains, which is an array of host names. Now, let's say you had an image from Unsplash. You would just go ahead and do www.unsplash.com, and then it would basically go ahead and that would be added to the domain list. So you should be able to use pictures from that domain from that point on. Now, once you do change anything in the config, you're going to have to go ahead, hit Command J, and you see it says found a change in Next.js config. I'm going to do Control C to cut that off and do yarn dev to restart my server. Okay, so you're going to have to do that when you make a change to a configuration file. That's just a rule of thumb. If you ever change a config file, boom, 600 likes. That's what I'm talking about, guys. This is why, like, my energy is so up. You guys, I started this and I was like, I was kind of like, is everyone going to enjoy this one, Tailwind CSS? But this is what I'm talking about. That's how I know you guys are interested. Let's keep going strong, guys. So I'm going to do Command J to hide this. Go ahead and cut this because we're good. And then we've got an image. Nice. Okay, so if I go ahead and refresh, you'll see, there we go. Our images are loading as we expect. Okay, so that's really, really clean. Let's continue on. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to have is a div. Okay, now this div is going to be responsible for the input. Okay, so this is actually a custom input. You can see we've actually got an embedded input inside of here, and then the outside is a div, and then we have these two icons, a search icon and a microphone icon on the right. Okay, let's go. Hops, what's up? Hoppery Fool in the house. Let's go, dude. All right, so now what we're going to do is we've got the form open. I'm going to go ahead and add in a div. So here I'm going to say div, like so, and then I'm going to open this out, and then I'm going to go ahead and say search icon. So I need a search icon. Now you guys can see this, right? So a search icon pops up in my autocomplete, and then I get a bunch of suggestions. Okay, and then I'm going to go down to the one which says, so we've got solid, we've got a few different solid ones. Let's go ahead and use, I actually don't want the solid one, I want the outline one. So if I click enter, you can see it's actually pulled in a solid, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually pull in the outline variant. So the outline variant is this one, search icon from Hero Icons React Outline. Okay, lazy loading the Google image. Yes, we want to lazy load our images by default. All right, that's it. Awesome stuff. Barkin says, great work, dude. Thank you so much, dude, for watching. All right, so we've got the search icon. I'm going to go ahead and hit close that out, and then we should be able to see. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. There we go. We got a huge icon on the page. Now these are basically react to Tailwind, because remember, like I said, Hero Icons works out of the box with Tailwind. So what we can do here is nice. Ayush got a nice internship as well. That's what we're talking about, guys. Papa Fam gets results. Okay, so we don't just work on like cool projects and stuff like that. My goal is result driven work. Right? If I can get people results, you're going to keep seeing videos from me, and that's it. The course, my course is designed to get results. It's not like a Udemy course, which is why if somebody comes in and says, where's this, where's that? I'm like, this is not a Udemy course. This is a course which gets you results. That's how we do it, right? That's why the Papa Fam is growing at the rate it's growing, because we actually get results. Okay, search icon. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in h of 5, so a height of 5, a width of, we don't actually mess around with the width, that's fine. If I change this to a height of 5, you can see, boom, it snaps to a nice little width over here. Awesome stuff. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do a margin right of 3. And you guys are probably watching this and you're like, what? This is crazy, man. Like, it can't be that easy to get a margin right like that, right? And if it, just to show you guys that that works, if I change it to margin left, you see it moved away, okay? So I'm gonna apply a margin right of 3, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is give this a text gray of 500 because icons are actually little kind of, you know, think of it as text. So I'm gonna go ahead. Anonymous says this is inspiring. I feel so motivated. That's what I'm talking about, dude. You know, like we all focus on results, okay? So text gray 500, right? Tailwind is so much fun, honestly, right? Now, the next thing we're gonna have is an input field, okay? So I'm gonna type in input, like so. Now, with this input field, we're gonna go ahead and give it a class name. And then this one is gonna basically go ahead and say, I'm gonna do a focus. And I'm gonna say, when we focus, I don't want there to be an outline. So I'm gonna say outline of none. Okay, so we can't actually see the input field right now. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and show you guys that it's there by saying BG red 500, and then you can see there it is. Right, so by default, there's the text box. But if I don't have outline of none, right, so if I don't have outline of none, you guys can see when I hover over it, you see I get this blue outline, which I don't like. I don't want that. I want to kind of override that. So I say focus outline none. Okay, and then there you go. That's how we get that clean look and feel. Okay. Thank you so much. I can surprise you telling you that I'm from Rwanda and I'm proud of Sunny. Thank you so much, dude. Amazing stuff. All right. Okay, so with that said, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the microphone. So we're actually going to pop in a microphone underneath this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get a microphone. Thank you, Vishal. He goes, yo, Sunny, I learned a lot from you. Keep up this awesome work. Could you build something with Google Maps? Oh, yeah. So guys, if you want to see something like Uber or something map related, then I know there's been a hype around Uber. So just let me know, and you know, I'll go ahead and build that out. And my goal is to teach you something new every time I drop a build. So today we're firing up with Next.js and Tailwind. Okay, so here I'm gonna go ahead and do microphone. So let's go ahead and do microphone, and I'm gonna do icon, microphone icon, like so. And this one I'm gonna go ahead and import from hero icons. Okay, so up here, I'm gonna go ahead and import this from, oops, I've already imported it. I imported that earlier, didn't I? Yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay. And now White Rabbit says H5 and W5, are they in pixels or EM or percent? So the thing that's really nice is by default, they base all of their values on rem values, which is actually a much more responsive unit that you should be using, okay? So typically we build with pixels, but you should be using rem as a good practice. Tailwind enforces that by default, which is nice, okay? Tailwind works perfectly with designers as well. Oh my God, this Papa Fan playlist gets me hyped up. Holy shit, let's go, guys. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and do a class name of 5. Okay, so I'm gonna say class name of H5. I told you, I keep upgrading this playlist. Even I shocked myself, all right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and make this look a bit more like an actual what we want it to look like, because right now this looks stupid, right? It doesn't look that nice. So I'm going to grab the div, okay, the outside, but I'm going to say class name equals. Now this is where the magic sort of comes in, okay? So I'm going to say flex. Remember, it's mobile first design, okay? So I'm going to say flex, and I'm going to say the width should be 4. So everything should go into a row and it should be using the full width. There we go. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to give a margin top so that it spaces itself from the Google logo of 5. So that'll push it away from the Google logo. The next thing I want to do is when I hover over this, right, I want to give it a shadow of large. Okay, so when I hover over this, you see I want to give it a shadow. There we go. Okay, so that I get this nice little shadow when I hover over this div. Okay, so this is looking pretty nice right now. Okay, this is looking pretty good. CSS framework, favorite CSS framework, Tailwind by far. It's absolute game changer. Okay, the next thing I want to do is change. So I'm going to go ahead and say max width. Actually, let's go ahead and do a few tricks, right? So what I actually want to do is I want to have it so that when I'm clicked into, so when I'm focused in this input field, it's going to highlight. So what I mean by that is, look, if I click into the field, you see how it stays shadow. The shadow stays, it doesn't get rid of it. So when I hover and when I click, so it stays there. How do I get that, right? Because right now it goes on the hover, but when I click it, it disappears. So we do something called focus within, right? So this means if there's any focus within a child component, then what I'm going to do is apply a shadow large. Now, if I click it, look at that, because we got focus, it will stay with the shadow. So you see it's very, very clean, right? Mario says, Sonny, you are inspiring. Thank you so much, dude. You guys inspire me to carry on. So this is what I do it for, right? Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say max width. So you see you can even apply max width. I'm gonna give it a medium. Now remember, these have like sort of default values. So medium is a good default value here. And this will apply like a max width of medium. So you see how it cut off there? That's why it did that, okay? Now I want this middle input field to take up the majority of the room. So what I do is I go over to my input field and I say flex grow, which is the same as basically saying flex 1, which means if you have more room, take it up, use up your more room, okay? So you can see the red is there. So if I go ahead and get rid of this background red of 500 now, so you guys can see it, you can see, look at that, we're starting to look a bit clean. Now we need a little bit of an outline here. Okay, we need some kind of outline here that's going to help us out, right? So if you want the playlist link, it's in the description and you guys can check it out, right? Guys, moderators, please keep the chat clean. Thank you, dude. All right, guys. All right, keep that chat clean. Thank you. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use breakpoints, okay? But before we do the breakpoints, I'm going to go ahead and set the borders, okay? So first thing I'm going to say rounded, right? So I'm going to say rounded, and then I'm going to say full, and I'm going to apply a border. And the border that I'm going to give is a border gray of 200. And we should see a nice little border. There we go. Okay. There we go. Really, really nice. Okay. Thank you, Avnish. Keep that clean, dude. Right. So border gray of 500. Really good stuff. And then we're going to give a pixel X padding on the X axis. So I'm going to give, it's not a pixel, sorry, a padding on the X axis of 5 and a padding on the Y axis of 3. And I'm going to center all the items by doing item center. Now you should be able to see a massive difference. Look how everything comes together with a couple of lines of code, right? So now look at that. When I hover over and focus, we've got a nice, everything just looks clean. Okay. This looks really, really clean. Mario says, I didn't realize the magic of Tailwind. Dude, neither did I. Tailwind is so damn powerful. It's crazy. Almost at 700 likes. Can we break 700? I think so. I think we can do this, guys. All right. So we have this looking pretty fresh right now, okay? Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to introduce some kind of breakpoints. Okay, so breakpoints basically mean once we pass a small screen, so once we go further than a small screen, I'm going to change the max width. Okay, so I'm going to change the max width to something which is extra large. Okay, so extra large. Now you can see, look at this, guys. So on a phone, can you see how it's smaller? Then when I get to past the small screen, so this is a small screen, this is where it gets slightly bigger. So can you see after SM is when we pass the small screen, it will apply a max width of XL, whereas previously we had a max width of medium, right? So that's how it grew on that responsive change, okay? Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna say on the large, so when you get really big, right? When you get your screen gets huge, we're gonna say a max width of 2XL, okay? Now this will go ahead and show a further change. So we've got like a bit more, and you see how it changed even more. So we've got 3 breakpoints at this point. So we've got small, like the sort of we've got the, okay, so we've got mobile, small, large, right? So large was there, right? So we see how it snapped large, nice. Okay, so that's really, really clean. Okay, so with that done, we are done with that box. Okay, so the next thing is that this is not looking ideal at this point, right? It's not centered, nothing is centered. It doesn't look very, very good, you know? So what we're gonna do is you can add a transition on that, okay? So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and give you a bit more room on this side as well. So we want to center all of these elements. So how do we center that stuff? Okay, so I'm going to go to the outside form and I'm going to say class name. By default, I want it to be a flex box. So here we're going to actually break a few things. You see how it looks a bit weird right now, right? I want it to be a flex column direction. So if I go ahead and hit save, you see how everything starts to stretch, right? We're going to fix that in a sec as well. I'm going to center all the items. I'm going to say margin top of 44. Okay. And look how immediately with doing item center, if I go ahead and get rid of the margin top, I'll show you step by step. So item center, stretch the, put everything in the center. It aligned everything centrally, right? So this is the same as doing align center, right? And then we're going to go ahead and do margin top of 44 to push it away from the top. There we go. And then what I want to do is say, flex grow, because I want it to kind of, you know, use up the available space that it has. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to say the width should be 4/5 of a page. Okay. So you can actually do a few really nice things here. So in this case, what I'm going to do is the width is, okay, so I've actually messed something up here. So that's not actually going to be width of 4/5. We'll change that in a bit. What I need to do is flex row, flex column. There we go. Okay, that's perfect for now. Okay, for now, that's good. Okay, so that's looking pretty good at this point, right? So at this point, you can see how look how it's looking pretty nice. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna have these search buttons. So these buttons right here. Okay, so 720 likes, nice. Isn't it better to send it vertically without margin? You can do either way. It's all good. I'm just showing you an example here. So we've got the div down here. Now we're gonna have another div. And this is going to be for the buttons. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is pop in some buttons inside of this. I'm going to say button, and this button will say Google search. And then the second button, and something that's really cool about today's build, right, is that by introducing server-side rendering, it actually makes the build, the search page, a lot easier. So I'm going to show you why, but it makes it extremely easy. Yes, there's no more external CSS file, which is clean, right? So in this case, I want one place where I can have styles for this. And then I want it to be, oh, what's up, Tony? My cousin's in the house. Hey, Tony goes, what's up? Go on, big man. Hey, that's what we're talking about. We have literally 500 people watching across platforms right now, which is crazy, right? And it just keeps on growing. So at this point, we've got the two buttons over here, but I want to have one place where the styles are applied. So I want to write the CSS once, or the Tailwind CSS once. And then I kind of want it to go ahead and, reflect on both buttons. So how do I do that? I pretty much go ahead and I'm just going to give a class name. So I'm going to do my option click. I'm going to say class name equals, and I just want to give a class of button, right? My goal is to have a class of button, and it will just apply all of this stuff. So remember, if you remember correctly, we had a global.css file. Okay. So I'm going to styles globals.css. And then here we injected our own custom class before for links. Okay, so at this point, what I can do is I can say dot button to inject our own button class, and I can say apply to apply some Tailwind CSS. And then inside of that, I can go ahead and actually say, so this is the interesting part. So Google has, firstly, they have like quite a distinctive gray. Okay, so I wanted that distinctive gray. So I want to set the background. If I set background gray 500, for example, and I hit save, now you can see the gray is too dark, right? But firstly, it's working. So that's quite nice to see, right? It's actually working the way it should be working, but it's just too dark, right? It's not looking the way I wanted it to look. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to use a custom value. Now, what's really nice is, remember in the beginning of this tutorial, we went ahead and showed you how to install JIT, which means just-in-time compiler. Now, when you're using a just-in-time compiler, you can pretty much go ahead and give it the values that you want or that you expect beforehand, and it will just pop in those values when it generates the CSS, which means that I can go ahead and put square brackets now and put a custom value here. So I can go ahead and put a custom value here, which will go ahead and actually give me a custom style being applied. Okay, so I don't have to use the sort of set ones, and you can see now there's a very subtle gray. Okay, like a super subtle gray there being applied, which is super clean, right? It works really nice. Somebody says you live in London. Hell yeah, dude. I'm a London boy. So then we say P3 to give it a padding of 3. And you can see we already get a nice bit of spacing. And then I'm going to say rounded medium, because I want to give just a slight rounded medium effect. And then I'm going to say, okay, so when I hover over it, I want a few things to take effect. But the first thing I want to do is I want to use this nice little ring utility class to say ring gray of 200. And this will give a nice little border. Now you can't see it that much right now because it's not in effect, but I will show you how to go ahead and do it. So I'm going to type in text SM to make the text smaller. Then I'm going to say the text should be a slight gray. So I'm not a super powerful gray. I'm just going to say 800. So it should be a dark, very subtle dark gray. And then we're going to start applying the effects. So when I hover, I want to apply that ring that I spoke about. I want to give it like a kind of a 1 kind of pixel value. So you can see when I hover, it gets like you see a very light line on it, right? So that's how we get that hover for the ring. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. We will be using grid. Somebody asked, are we using grid? We will be using grid. I'll show you in a bit where we're going to be using grid. Just bear with me, okay? So we've got the hover here happening. And then the second one will say is, okay, when we're focused, so when you click it, I don't actually want to have that little blue outline. So when I click this right now, you see how I get a blue outline? I don't want that blue outline, okay? So I'm going to say outline none. hit save, and now you see when I click it, the outline didn't occur, right? Refresh because we haven't done any JavaScript code there, right? Yet. So next thing I want to do is when we are active, I want to give it a ring. I'm going to change the color of the ring to gray 300. So by default, it's let's go ahead and hit save. By default, it's you see it's a 200 by default, and then when I'm active, it'll turn to a 300. So when I active, it means click. So you see how when I click it, it changed, right? There we go. Really, really nice. Okay. So that's really, really awesome, and it works exactly the way we wanted it to. So with that bit said, we have that looking pretty clean. I just want to do one more effect. I want to say when I hover over this button, I want to apply a shadow of medium. Okay, and I hope you guys can start to see that the effect that this actually, the power behind Tailwind CSS, right? And if you can see the power behind Tailwind CSS and you're happy that I dropped Tailwind CSS, smash the thumbs up button. Let me know in the comments right now, because I will keep on bringing value on Tailwind and Next.js together, because together they are a very powerful duo, okay? So we have this being applied here. So I'm gonna go back to my index and we have both buttons. Now, obviously this isn't ideal. I'm gonna show you how we can do a really nice little styling trick here to make that look just as we want it. So I'm gonna go to the parent div, and I'll say class name, and I'm going to give it a flex. All right. So I want it to be flex. Now I want it to be by default, remember, mobile friendly. Okay, is what we think about first. So in this case, this is the final build. So I'm going to close this. This is the final build right here. And this is what we have right now. Okay. So what I want to do is, you see, as it starts off in a column, and as it gets bigger, it turns into a row. Okay. So remember, we should design with the mobile in view at first. Right, so mobile in thought at first. So flex column should be our default. Right, so they should be stacked up on top of each other by default. Now the width, in this case, I'm going to do, the width should be a half by default. Right, so if I do the width of a half by default, that means it'll be the half of the screen. Okay, which is nice. And then I'm going to say space should be between the Y components, right? So the space between the children on the Y-axis. So now as soon as I do that, you should be able to see a little gap be present now. So that's really nice to see that little gap. Okay, Soham says brilliant, Sunny, thank you so much, dude. Hope you're enjoying this. Right, so we got space YF2, and then what I'm going to say is justify center. Okay, so this will go ahead and just make sure everything stays in the center, right, even when it goes ahead and changes as it resizes. And I'm going to give it a margin top of 8 so that it's not touching the input bar. And already that's looking clean. But when we're on big screens, that's not nice, is it? Right, that doesn't look nice when we go on a big screen, right? We want it to kind of, you know, have that responsive nature. So what I'm going to say is when I hit a small breakpoint, I'm going to change the spacing to go from on the y-axis to go ahead and get rid of the spacing. Okay, so now what we should see is as I get bigger, you see the spacing disappears, right? And then what I'm going to say, somebody said Bootstrap or Tailwind. Tailwind the whole way. There's not even a question. Tailwind, if those guys want sponsors or whatever, I'm down. Tailwind is so good. And I don't say that about a lot of things, but Tailwind is damn good. Okay, that's why I'm behind it so much. Okay, OGs are gonna know where this one's from. This song, right? So then I'm gonna go ahead and say when you hit the small breakpoint, go ahead and change to a flex row. Okay, and then I'm also gonna change the space on the x-axis to go ahead and be a space of 4. Okay, so let's have a look at this now. If we've done it correctly, as soon as I hit that small breakpoint, boom, look at that. How nice is that, right? So perfect on the desktop. As we resize, boom, looks amazing, right? That's really, really clean. Okay, so everything's looking really nice, right? I'm really liking the look of that. Gaming Matt, thank you for the donation, dude. Tailwind on Material UI. Oh, different use cases. I mean, different use cases. Tailwind has Tailwind UI as well. So I am going to dive into that and have a look at that as well. Right. So with that said, we have done the body right here. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is actually go ahead and before we hook up the buttons, I'm going to style out the footer. Okay. So the footer is our next step at this point. So I'm actually going to create a footer component. Okay. So it'll be a lot easier just to have a component down here, which is the footer. Right, so the footer over here is very simple. We go ahead and create a component, and this is where I use grid. Okay, so I'm going to go footer.js like so, underscore RFCE for our handy little snippets, and then here we've got our footer we're about to go ahead and prep. Okay, now the footer again is going to use something called a globe icon at one point. So eventually we're going to have, it's not actually on this one, but I will have a little globe icon down there. So I'm going to go ahead and prep that beforehand by saying import the globe icon. And we'll need that in a bit. And then I'm going to use the appropriate HTML tag. So this is going to be a footer. So we're going to go ahead and say the footer. Ratio says, damn, the efficiency. You know how we do it, guys. And we're talking, and we're going to go ahead and have some coffee, flip the camera to this one, change the color of the background, because that's how we do it. That was smooth. I don't even care. That was smooth. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have in the footer, firstly, a div. Okay. So you can see here how I want you guys to notice the responsive change here that happens on the footer. Okay. So by default, you can see we've got three rows here and a United Kingdom at the top. Okay. So if I go ahead and make this bigger, something very interesting happens. Okay. It changes from a 3 row to a 2 row, but carbon neutral since 2007 at the top stays at the top. Okay. And then when we go even bigger, it drops into the middle, right? So that's not as an easy of effect as you would think usually. Okay. So small breakpoint means once we start off in a mobile view. When we hit the small breakpoint is when we hit this point. Okay. So this is the mobile view. Small, this means a small screen, medium, large. Okay. And so forth. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build that out. Okay. So for the footer, we're going to go ahead and do this. So somebody says, why Next.js, not reactjs? Because server-side rendering, dude. Period. Right. Learn reactjs, and then when you want to level up, you move over to Next.js, and it's going to help you out. Okay. So now with that said, I'm going to go ahead and for the footer, I'm going to first define a few things. Actually, let's go ahead and pop out a few things inside the footer first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a div first, and this is going to have a p tag inside of it, which says United Kingdom. Right, so I'm going to hard code these values, and obviously you can upgrade this afterwards to make it have like, you know, some kind of cool sort of, you know, detect where you're at sort of feature. Right, so down here we can see United Kingdom. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ensure firstly that I've styled this correctly. So we're actually going to go up to the top. Firstly, I want my body to take up the entire sort of width. So my footer right now should be at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so we need to go ahead and fix that. So we have a surrounding div in our parent class before. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say class name equals, I'm going to say flex, and then I'm going to say flex column because I want the entire screen to be in a column. And then I'm going to go ahead and you see how everything's starting to break, right? But that's fine. Don't freak out. We're going to put everything in the center with item center. And then that will go ahead and, you know, push everything into the center. And then I'm going to say justify center. And then I'm going to say height of the screen. And watch what happens here, guys. Boom. Look at that. Right, everything looks pretty clean now, okay? Now that's messed up right there. Okay, so that's kind of messed up there. So what I can do is, firstly, I don't actually think I would need... Okay, we could do it a few ways. That's fine. We can do it a few ways. But what I'm actually going to do here is I am going to have items in the center. But for the body, I'm actually going to change one of my values in the form to become, so where's my format here? I'm going to say the width of this should be 4/5. Okay, and there we go. And that's what I wanted. And then that actually prevents it from touching as well on the side. Okay, so the width there is 4/5, and then that's where we want to get to. Okay, this is amazing stuff, guys. Will this live stream be saved? Yes, it will be saved. All my live streams are saved afterwards for you guys to watch afterwards. Okay, so this looks clean at this point. So we're going to go ahead and get this looking right in the footer side of things. So for the footer, we're going to go ahead and say we've got United Kingdom up and running. So we're going to go ahead and for that div, I'm going to say a class name of, let's give it a pixel on the, a padding on the x-axis of 8 and a padding on the y-axis of 3. Hit save. Okay, guys, I see so many people saying Next looks like React. Next is React.js. It's a framework for React.js, period. Okay, you have React.js and then you stack Next on top. It's a framework for how you use React.js, and it allows you to have server-side rendering and a bunch of other cool things like static site generation inside of your application. Solved. I keep seeing it so much. All right, that's how we do it. Okay, so with that said, let's carry on. So we're going to go ahead and at the top now, I'm going to say for the footer, and this will make a lot of sense once we sort of, you know, dive in. I'm going to say this is a grid. Okay. It uses the width of 4. Right, and we're talking about the footer here at this point. And then I'm going to say, we need to divide. So I'll keep it there for a sec, and then I'll go ahead and upgrade that afterwards. I'm going to have another div underneath this. And this div is going to have It's going to have another div with a globe icon inside of it. So we're going to have we've got a div here, we've got the United Kingdom, and then we're going to have another div here, sorry, yes, and then we're going to have, this is going to be for the, remember we have 3 sections to account for here. We have 1 div, 2 div, 3 div, okay? So this is the first div, which is going to have inside of it carbon neutral since 2007. Okay, so you can have something like this. I'm just going to pop this in here, and I know it's a loose string. I'll show you what I'm doing in a sec. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop in the globe icon here. So I'm going to say globe icon, and then if I hit save, you guys will see, ooh, it's looking huge, right? So I'm going to give it a class name with some styles on the globe icon, like this. Save, and then you can see that looks a bit cleaner. Okay, now don't worry, this will all snap into place very soon. Okay, don't freak out, it will make a lot of sense soon. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is go to my parent div over here, and actually let's just start at the top, right? So the overall div, I'm going to say it needs to have a divide between its Y components, right? So everything on the Y axis, and I'm going to do a custom value of 1 pixel. Okay, so you can see now we've got like a little divider between our Y components, right, of 1 pixel. And then I'm going to say the divide, the line itself should be a gray of 300. Okay, and you see how it become a little bit thicker, right, in terms of color. So the color is now a bit darker. And then what I'm going to say is a background should become a gray of 100. And you can see with this nice little palette, it makes styling things a lot easier, right? It makes a lot of easier things, right? So it makes it a lot easier when you're doing this stuff. I'm going to change the text to small. Okay, so that makes it a little bit nicer and small. And then I'm going to change the text color to a text gray of 500. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and there we go. It looks nice, right? Loads of people are saying, when's the course going to get released? The course is actually it's right now inside of the in the description. Okay, so you guys can check it out. So we've got the div. That top div is completely finished. The second div that I want to do is go ahead and say class name. Oh, this is a classic. Let's go ahead and do equals. And guys, we just broke 800 likes. That's what I'm talking about. What the hell? Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And we're getting more people watching, right? I don't know. The love you guys give me is incredible, right? If you're watching right now and you're not subscribed, just please subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon because I'm going to be dropping videos weekly now, which is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Yes, I said weekly. I'm going to be building everything every single week. Crazy stuff. I'm setting myself challenges this year. All right. So we've got grid. And then what we're going to say is grid column of 1 by default. Grid column of 1. Columns 1. Now this means by default it's going to be 1 grid column here. So if I add in a second child, it's going to be something like that. Okay. So somebody says give your PayPal ID. There's actually a nice little donation link in the bottom. It's links.papareact.com/donate. Right. But thank you so much. It's in the description. Thank you so much, dude. So here we're going to say div, and then I'm going to have 3 p tags. So p times 3, and that's called emit. And then it's going to say advertising, business, and how search works. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy those in. Boom. And then hit save. And now you can see like everything's stacked up because it's 1 column. Okay. So let me go ahead and make myself a little bit smaller. There we go. Everything's stacked up because it's 1 column. And then what we're going to have over here is another div outside of this, which will say privacy terms and settings. Okay. Gonna go ahead and do this. Privacy terms and settings. And then at the top where we've got this div, I'm going to say class name equals, and then I'm going to say for the advertise, remember this is actually 3 different divs. So you've got the first div, which contains this one and carbon neutral, and then you've got these 3 inside of a div, and then you've got privacy terms and settings inside of another div. Okay. And then we need to style them accordingly. So the first one with advertising, business, and all that stuff, we're going to say that's a flex box with justify center. So justify center, Tabnine coming in clutch as always. Okay. Then we're going to say on the medium breakpoint, I'm going to change that. Actually, I'll show you the medium stuff afterwards. I'm going to change the spacing of the x-axis to become 8. And I'm going to do white space, no wrap. Okay. So white space, it shouldn't be this. It should be white space, no wrap. Okay, so we could do that, and you can see now this became justify center accordingly, right? So that looks pretty clean. I'm going to do the same thing for privacy terms and settings. Okay, so class name, oops, go down here, class name, like so, and I'm just going to do equals, and then here I'm going to say flex, justify, thank you, center, and then I need to do space X, and you see how Tabnine guessed it before I even done it, right? And then you can see how, look at that, it's starting to look a lot more like the final product, right? So this is actually looking a lot more to this. We're trying to get to this sort of end goal, okay? Great vibes. That is like a bot lurking somewhere. Nah, dude, there's no bots. We're all good. Osman says the quality of these streams out of this world. Dude, that's what I try and aim for, you know? That's my mission with you guys, is to go ahead and, you know, make this thing incredibly good. Now, when I hit a medium breakpoint, I do want to change a bunch of this stuff, okay? So the first thing is on the bottom one, when I hit the medium breakpoint, I want to do a margin left of auto so that it flies over to the right, okay? So now if I go ahead and see this, you see privacy terms and settings is now far right after the medium breakpoint, which is what I wanted, okay? Now the second one at the top, I'm going to say medium breakpoint. When that gets here, I'm going to say justify self start. Okay. So a few different, you know, different rules, and this is going to justify itself so that it starts at the beginning. And now if I go ahead and oops, that's a bad decision. There we go. And you see how now it goes to the start. Okay. So that's how it splits across. Now the thing that's broken here is, one, we haven't styled carbon neutral since 2007. And secondly, we haven't modified what happens to the grids. Okay, so I will show you how we do that now. So the first one is we go to this, the one which has the little globe in it, and we go ahead and apply some styles to that. The first thing I want to do is say flex. That way it drops into a neat little center bit. I'm going to say justify center. Nice. And then we're going to say items should be centrally aligned on the y-axis, and then hit save. And now you can see this. Everything's looking pretty good at this point. But look what happens, right? So it starts to break apart in a nice way, but the columns aren't being responsive at this point. Okay, Dev Guy says your content is awesome. Your content helped me make COVID-19 track, and I got a prize in the science fair. That's amazing, dude. Amazing, amazing stuff. Thank you so much. Guys, we're about to break 900 likes. Let's do it. Let's do it together. I think we can break 1,000. Guys, I think we can break 1,000 today. I swear to God, it'll make my day if we break 1,000 today. Right? I'll do this every week if we break 1,000 today. Right? So we've got item center over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, when I hit the medium breakpoint, this is where the magic happens, okay? When I hit the medium breakpoint, I want this column to span across 2 columns, okay? Then when I hit the large breakpoint, I want this column to span across 1. And I want the column to start. So this is actually, it might be a bit confusing if you're not used to, you know, any grid work, but don't worry, it'll make sense once we get this done. I'm going to say grid start 2. So now if I go ahead and do this, you can see how, basically, think of it this way, right? So see how carbon neutral takes up the space when we hit the medium breakpoint, and then on the final one, it takes up the entire width. Okay, so it's actually looking pretty good at that point, right? So what we need to do now is actually change the parent container. So we've got grid column 1 when we're on the mobile size, okay? Then when we do MD, when we hit the medium breakpoint, I'm going to change to 2 grids. Okay, so grid columns 2. And now when we see this grow, it will change to 2 columns, right? So everything is actually pretty good there. So you see we've got 2 columns. And then what I'm going to say is when we hit large, I'm going to hit grid columns 3, okay? Grid columns 3, I'm going to say the gap between the Y components, gap between the Y components should be 4, hit save. And that spaces things out a little bit. And then the interesting one is called grid flow dense, right? So this is actually a dense rule, which is pretty clever. So you see here, look what's happening, right? So this is a bit of an awkward situation right now, right? So it's not using up all of its available columns. So what we need to do is apply something called a dense rule, okay? And this means that whenever it resizes, it will just use up the space that it had, okay? So we do this by saying grid flow row dense, okay? So here what I'll do is I'll say grid flow row dense. And now look what happens, right? So actually right now it's not entirely fixed. Let me go ahead and change this 1 second. Okay, so we need to do pixel. Oh wait, I've done it in the wrong one. Oops. I've actually applied that in the wrong section. So this should be here, right? And then we should have this in the top one. Yeah, oops. I was like, wow, that's a bit of a strange fix. Right, grid flow dense should be here. Right, it should be over on this one. There we go. Now let's double check if we've done everything correct. Okay, so there you go. You can see how that works, right? So what's actually happening here is, let's break it down from the parent, right? On a mobile view, we're grid column 1. On a medium view, where we turn to 2 columns. And on a large, we turn to 3 columns. Okay. Now the globe icon one, so this top carbon neutral one, is basically on the medium view going to span across the 2 columns, which means it takes the entire width. Okay. And then on the large, it will only span 1, right? But it will take up the 2nd column, which is how it's able to position itself in the middle again. Right. And then that's how we get this nice sleek look and feel, which is pretty cool, right? This is really, really nice. Okay. Now, this is awesome. Yeah. And we're using Tabnine to do a lot of the auto completions, right? So absolutely amazing stuff. Okay. So this is looking really, really clean at this point. Okay. So with that said, we need to now link up the next step, which is the button functionality. Okay. So let's go to our index.js because we are now done with the footer. Okay. We're done with the footer. We're nearly at 900 likes. I think we're making good progress so far. Let's keep on killing it, guys. All right. So look at this. This is actually fully responsive right now. All right. See how the bottom footer changes depending on what screen size we're in. See how the buttons change depending on what screen size we're in. Nothing breaks. It just looks great. And I usually get those questions and comments like, Sonny, you know, it's not responsive enough, right? Like it doesn't change things, but this is like fully responsive, looks great. Okay. Okay. So with that said now, I want to basically, as I type in, let's say I type in testing 1, 2, 3, I want to be able to click on Google search and it takes me to the appropriate page. Okay. So now what we need to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my home. And I'm going to go ahead and type in the following. So I'm going to create a search function. So it's going to be const search, right? And this takes an event because it's going to be on a button press. And we don't want the page to keep refreshing. So I need to do e.prevent default, right? So that's right now. If I click this button, it refreshes. Okay. So I'm going to hook this button, this search function up to these buttons. Okay. So I'm going to say on click, and I'm just going to do the same thing on each of these button clicks. I want it to search. Okay. So now if I click it, you should see that nothing happens. Okay. Which is great. That's exactly what I want. Right. So nothing is happening when I click it, which is perfect. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and White Rabbit says, if you want to change font color, you have to change it one by one, or you just change the parent's font color and then everything inside of it will change. That's how you do it nicely. Okay. So what we can do now is I need the text from this input field. Okay, so how can I get the text from this input field in a very nice, easy, slick fashion? We're going to use something called a useRef inside of React. So I'm just going to basically have a reference, which is like a big pointer to that input field. Okay, Avni says Tabnine coming in clutch. Hell yeah, dude. Tabnine's killing it today, right? So what I can do now is I can go ahead and get that input. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a reference called search input ref, and this is going to use the useRef hook in React. I'm going to auto import this from React, and then we initialize it with a value of no. Okay, now I go ahead and I click this, and I just need to attach it to my input field. So here I say ref equals search input ref, and now I have a big fat pointer poking to that input field. So whenever I need a value, I now can reference the value, hence the ref. Okay, so what I can do is here I can say const term. Right, and the rule of thumb is when you're dealing with const let var, the rule of thumb is never use a var, never, right? Always use a let instead of a var, but the rule of thumb is always use a const first until you need to change the value, and then you switch to a let. You never use a var, okay? Always use a const until you need a let. That's my rule of thumb. It makes it so easy, okay? And guys, we're almost at 900 likes, 900 likes, incredible stuff. Const term equals search input. So we go to the thing that it's pointing at, and then what I'm going to do is do dot. Okay, I'll make this a little bit bigger. We do dot, and then I'll say current dot value. Okay, nice. And then let's go ahead and hit save. And now I should get the value. So if I type in test 1, 2, 3, this value will basically, I'll be able to get the value inside of this term variable now from there. Okay, because we've attached a reference and it's gone ahead and done it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is say if there is no term, okay, if there was no term, then we just simply want to return from this, right? We don't want to have anything happen if there is nothing entered. Otherwise, if I'm clicking Google search on an empty field, it doesn't make sense, right? Then what I'm going to do is I need to redirect the user to my search page. So we are going to have a page which is /search, right? The home page is just the index, which is /. We're going to have a search page. So what we need to do is direct the user to that page, okay? And we're going to use something called query params to include the search term in it, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the router. So we need something called a router, and Next.js has a built-in router, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to import it from Next.js. So I'm going to say import use router from next router, and here I say const router equals use router, and then I do open close parentheses and like so, okay? Now we have our router inside Next.js, and then what I can say router.push. And then I want to push on this sort of, you know, the history of the person's browser, which means I'm basically just going to redirect them, but they can then go back if they need to. So I'm going to do backticks because I want to do some string interpolation there. I'm going to say go to /search. And then what I want to do is, wow, look at this Tabnine figuring out what I'm going to do. That's scary good. Yeah. Basically, I want to do a query param. So question mark. And the query basically is it's like including a variable on your URLs, right? So I'm going to say the query is term, and the search term is going to be, in this case, the JSX for the term. So this will basically go ahead and redirect the user to like search /term. And I want to show you this in practice very quickly. So if I go to sunnysanger.com, I type in testing and I hit enter, search term testing, right? Test equals term equals testing, and then we go ahead and get the appropriate result. So what I'm going to do here is this. So now if I go ahead and do it, we should get to a 404 page. But if I type in like this to say test 123, Google search, and there you go. It says search term equals test 123, and there's a bit of encoding in the URL of the browser. That's why that's happening. Now this is normal. If you get a 404 page, this is correct because the page, we haven't created it yet. And Next.js has a nice little fallback page that can go ahead and prevent us from seeing pages which don't work. Okay. I stream at 60 FPS because, you know, it's buttery smooth, mate. Right. You can actually watch it back in not 60 FPS. So that's completely fine for you. Guys, I just want to say we broke 900 likes. Boom. That's what I'm talking about. I love you guys. It's incredible. The patience, everything you guys give me is so nice. Okay, so now we're going to go, we've already done the redirect. Okay, so this is actually perfect at the moment, right? It redirects them to a search page. We just need to build the search page. So how do we build a search page in Next.js? All right, Junie Cortez says, Sonny, you're still the GOAT. Thank you. Thank you so much. Join the Papa fam. You're here. You're present. This is incredible. Andre says, you're cool, man. Thank you so much, dude. Right, so now what we're going to do here is we have our code up and running. So we're going to go to our pages. And by the way, if you didn't know, Next.js gives you a backend API out of the box. So you get like express routes out of the box. But we're not going to cover that today. Instead, what we're going to do is we have index.js for the home page. Now, I want to create a new page called search, which lives at /search on the web browser, okay? How we do it is very simple. All we need to do is type in search.js. And now you're wondering, Sonny, but that's not a capital S. It's because these values are actually linked to the root name. So in this case, it has to be lowercase s, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and we'll do _RFCE, and then we have our search page, okay? Now this page on the actual code should be a capital, right? So this one should be capitals just for standards, and this one is lowercase, which is fine, okay? So that's exactly what we want to get to. Now this page is going to be extremely clean once we get it up and running. The first thing I want to do is actually change the head. So I'm going to go ahead and import the head from the component over there. And inside of our component, I'm going to say we have the head, that special sort of head tag. Oops. And then I'm going to change the title of the page. So let's just say search results for now. Okay. But eventually what I want is, you see how even in the title over there, it says testing Google search. So it even has that in the testing, right? Which is incredible, right? So this is really, really cool. Shamoon says, you are a beast, boy. Thank you so much. Hashtag Papa React. That's on the hashtag Papa Fam, dude. Right? This is incredible stuff, right? So let's go ahead and carry on. We have this looking good. And if you want to change the icon here, you can go ahead and do so by changing that link, and it will work for you, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to have two things in here. I'm going to have a header, and I'm going to have the search results. And that's simply it. I'm going to have the header and the search results. Okay, so the header is going to be all of this stuff up here, right? So the header is going to be this sticky component. I say sticky because when I scroll down, it will stick, right? So excuse that little squiggly line, but this entire top section is the header. Everything else that you see down here is the search results. Okay, so all of this is going to be search results. right? And you're going to be surprised at how easy it is to get pagination on this build. So it's fun. Okay, it's a lot of fun. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to build out the header component, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say header, right? But I'm actually going to show you that this works first. I'm going to say h1 search page, right? Because it's literally living here on this page, we don't have to do anything else. Now all I need to do is type in Google search or hit Google search. You see how it goes to the search page. So it works out of the box. Next.js is so fast and clean like that, all right? And we have fast refresh, which is awesome, okay? Now you are Papa Beast. Nice. Yeah, that'd be cool. I know that. Papa Beast. I'm Mr. Beast. Right? Can you imagine if Mr. Beast watched one of these videos? Holy crap, that'd be crazy. Right? So let's go to and do a header like so. Okay. And then let's create a header component. Okay. So this is going to be a header.js component. We're going to do our underscore RFCE trick. And then we have our header. Okay. So let's go ahead and build out the header itself. So first thing I want to do in the header is we're going to change these div tags to header tags. Okay, and I'm actually going to go over to that page right now. So I'm going to say testing. So now we're at this page and I'm going to say header. And then the first thing I want to do is have an image. Okay, so the image is going to be this thing at the top. Oops, I'm going to have this thing over here at the top, right? So I want an image like so. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in an image like this. And this is going to be from Next. So we're using that special image library, which needs a source is the first thing. And the source here, I'm just going to do a simple picture I got from Google. So nothing fancy with that one. I'm going to go ahead and just do something from Google. I am going to make it, oh no, so it's already by default a lazy loaded image. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a height and a width. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a class name of cursor pointer, because I want, when I hover over it, I want it to be a clickable element. So it's going to look like a clickable element. Okay. If I go ahead and do that, then what I need to do is go back to my search page, import my header, and hit save. And now we should see Google at the top. Perfect. All right, so Google's looking good. That's what we wanted, and everything's looking pretty sweet at this point. Now what I'm going to do is eventually I will have an on click, right? So actually what I want to do is I want to have it so when I click it, it will throw me back to the original page. So to do that is actually very simple. I'm going to show you just how easy that is, right? I'm going to go ahead and import my use router. I'm going to go ahead and pull my router using that hook. So const equals use router, and Tabnine just makes it so fast. And then I'm going to have an on click, right? So event listener, which says an inline arrow function, which will do the following. I'll say router.push, because I want to be able to swipe back to come back to this page if I need to. Hence why I'm pushing onto the stack and not replacing. And then what I'm going to do is go to the /, right? Which is the home page. And now, oh, nice. Jane D says, oh my God, first time making the live. You guys are amazing. Love from Nigeria. I'm proud female front-end developer. Because of you guys, will watch the play by layer. Well done, guys. That's incredible, right? I love the fact that we inspire even women to become coders. That's what we're talking about. Papa Fam is everyone, okay? So if I can inspire you girls out there to start coding as well, because I know it's male dominant at the moment. So I would love if more girls jump into Papa Fam. That's what we want to do. I even want Meban to start coding, right? So I'm trying to get her on these videos, and we can do a Meban code series, which will be fun, right? So now if I click this, boom, I'm back at the home page. Simple as that. And if I swipe back, I go back to my swipe. All right, so that looks pretty clean. Okay. Craig says you probably need to add some config in Next to make lazy load work if you link an external image. Right now it actually does it out of the box after I messed around with it, but it's working pretty good at the moment. Right. So at the top bit, right, at this, we've got the image at the moment. Now I'm gonna have a custom sort of a custom input field. Okay. So the custom input field at the top is going to be a form. Okay. So this form over here, we don't need an action. What I'm going to now have inside is an input field. This input field is by default a text input field, so that's fine. And this is going to have a reference to it, because remember, we need to grab the value from it. Okay, so I'm going to say search input ref is going to be the value that we need. And I need to make a reference. So I'm going to say const search input ref equals use ref, and we're going to initialize it with a value of no. This is that big pointer that I was talking about earlier, that is how we're able to get the value out of that text box. Okay, so the value that I'm talking about is this imaginary text box here. I need to get that value, and the way I do that is I go ahead and do search input ref and connect a reference to it. Okay, so that's how we do it. Now everyone's asking, what age did I code? Right, like what age did I sort of start coding? I started coding at 16. I think it was just 16, 17, and I'm now 26. Right, so yeah, it's not bad. And also, guys, we're almost at 1,000 likes. Crazy stuff. Absolute crazy stuff. Right. So this input field, we're going to go ahead and now do a class name. And this class name for the input field is going to be flex grow, because the parent is going to be a flex container. And I want the input field to take up the majority of the room. Okay. And then we're going to have width of full. Okay. So width of full. And then I'm going to have the focus to be outline none. Okay. So focus will be outline none. Nice. And I hit save. And there you go. It's right there. It's a little bit hidden for now, but we will make it seen in a sec. Now I'm going to style this form so that way we can actually see some stuff happening. All right, so I'm going to go into this, a flexbox form. Okay, I'm going to give it a border. Oops, I'm going to give it a border, and I'm going to say border gray of 200. Now I just want to mention as well, a reason why I'm a big fan of the Papa Fan playlist is because this is what the kind of music that I kind of listen to, vibe to, and I can tune to when I'm kind of coding. Now, it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, it's really nice when I'm sort of working. Like, it depends. I kind of go in and out of phases. We're going to make this rounded full. That's why I made the playlist. That's why everyone can go ahead and enjoy this playlist, right? I'm going to say flex grow on this container, okay? Because the header will have some styles in there. Actually, maybe not, right? So I'm going to leave that one out for now. I'll say shadow large for now for this one, and then I'm going to say the max width should be 3XL, and I'm going to put the items in the center. Okay, so the form, it should be this, and then for the flex here, I'm actually going to say a padding on the x-axis of 6, a padding on the y-axis of 3, a margin left of 10, and a margin right of 5. And you see how quick it is to get all of that typed in, right? If you are looking for the playlist, a lot of people are asking. The playlist is inside of, I don't know who's saying that, but yeah, I don't know what's happening. Right? Yeah, the playlist link, right? The playlist link is the newsletter link in the description. So you sign up to the newsletter, I'll send you the playlist, and that's it. It's yours, and you get access to it. You also get all the cool emails that we send. Okay, so you guys can do that. Now here you go. Look at this. We have this working pretty nice. Okay. So this is going to be the top search bar over here. Okay, so the next thing I want is next to this input, I'm actually going to have an X icon. So X icon like so. Okay, now this X icon is going to be a solid, hence I'm going to go to the solid option and do this and hit save. Right, Ibrahim says, green from USA, Sunny, thank you so much. I have done 5 React builds. I want to ask how you make React builds mobile friendly. You're in the right place, dude. Tailwind CSS, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Okay. So we're going to do a height of 7 for this icon. Oops, class name equals a height of 7. And you can see how I'm able to code really quick with the help of things like Tabnine, right? It just helps me not have to type in the same things again and again and again. It just basically auto completes it for me. I'm going to make this a cursor pointer. There you go. Change the color of that to cursor pointer. And I do want to have a slight hover effect. So when I type in, you see this little X right here. When I click it, you see when I hover over it, it has this little hover. And if I type in here and I press this X, it clears the value here, which would be really nice. Okay. So at this point, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go ahead and say transition. So I'm going to go ahead and say cursor pointer transition, duration of 100. And I'm going to say transform. And I'm going to say when I hover, I want the scale to go to, basically 25% bigger, which is 125. Okay. So now if I hover over it, can you see how it grows ever so slightly? That's how we do that, right? 30 more likes and we are at 1,000 likes. That is insane. Like that's like 3 times the people that are watching right now, which is just like, that's mind blowing. Like, how does that even happen, right? If you want to help it get up, just smash the thumbs up button. But that's incredible, right? That's just crazy, honestly. Now, when we're on a small screen, I want to add a little margin right of 3, right? Because we're going to have a reason for this in a bit. But I'll show you what I'm doing there, okay? Now, on click, I'm going to add in a little bit of code here. So when I click this little X icon, the way I make it clear the text field is I say on click and I say the search input reference, current value goes to a blank. So if I try that out now and I go ahead and type in and I go ahead and hit X, you see how it clears it out. That's how we do it. Okay, so it's very clean to do that, right? Guys, we're almost at 1,000 likes. very like spoiled sport, dude. Right. So now with that said, we're going to go ahead and we've got this. We're going to add in the microphone icons. Now I did want to show, notice how when we get to a small screen size, those microphone icons disappear, right? Notice that how you see how the microphone icon disappears, right? So that's actually something that we can go ahead and implement very easily in Tailwind CSS. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So the way we do that is we have next to the X icon, we have a microphone icon. Okay, so microphone icon. Right, so the microphone icon over here, and this one is going to be as such, like that, and you can import it as followed up the top. And then we're going to have a class name over here. So class name equals, oh, 7 likes, damn. He goes, just kidding, bro, I love the videos. Dude, the thing is, you start a war when you do that. People just start going crazy. That's why I say it. It's all good though, man. It's all love. All right, we do a H6, and then I'm going to go ahead. There you go. We've got the little arrow up here. Right, that's it. We're all about positivity here. Right, margin right of 6. Oh no, margin right of 3. Right, because I don't want to touch the next element next to it afterwards. So I'm going to push it away a bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for this one hidden. So this is going to be hidden by default on mobile. Okay, so remember mobile first, which means by default it's hidden. Yeah, only when it hits a small is it going to go inline flex. Right, so now only when it hits the small breakpoint does it come inline as a flex item. Okay, so little things like that, very important. Text blue of 500. Okay, that will look really nice. And then we'll say border L of 2. Right, I'm going to give it border left of 2. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger because we can't see what's actually happening. So border, where am I gone? Here, border L of 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say P padding left side of 4 and a border gray of 300. And then we hit save. And you can see, look at that. We got a very nice effect there, which is fully responsive. As I go beyond it, so past the small breakpoint back to the mobile view, you can see how it disappears, right? So, oh, 1K. That's what I'm talking about. 1K. Wow, guys, I'm gonna drop the Papa Fountain. That's what we're talking about. That's incredible. I just want to say, like, let's just take a second. Thank you. All right, massive help, massive appreciation. That helps the video go so far. So if you're watching this on replay, whatever it is, thank you. Smash that thumbs up button, share the video, help it grow, and I appreciate all of you. With that said, let's jump into the build and absolutely keep crushing it, because man, you guys are absolutely you guys are something else, right? So what we're gonna do here is we've got the microphone icon. I'm gonna have a search icon next. Search icon. And then we're gonna go ahead and say, somebody said 8 dislikes from the people at Bing. Exactly. I'm gonna go ahead and say search icon class name of H6. And I'm gonna say text blue of 500. And then we should see that little icon. And by default, mobile first is going to be hidden, and I'm only going to show it after the small breakpoint, inline flex. Okay, so now we should see, as I go ahead and shrink it, boom, we get this nice responsiveness like so. Okay, Lakshmi, please don't spam that, dude, because you're just going to get blocked, and I really don't want you to get blocked. Okay, Avnish, please moderate the chat. Thanks, dude. All right, so once we've got that down, what we're going to do is we're going to add in the search button. Right now, you're probably wondering what search button, right? So I'm going to show you a little trick. Whenever we have a form and we want to have the enter key, right, do something for us, then what we can do is actually have the button hidden but still be functional. Okay, so if somebody's saying, like, I would definitely want to learn, please can you make tutorials? Dude, join the course, right? The course, like, literally we teach it from the basics. So we cover everything plus coaching. So it's absolutely incredible value. Okay, so we're going to use the avatar that we had previously afterwards, but we're going to actually, right now, I'm going to add a button in, and this button is going to say search. So by default, this button is what's responsible for the actual search kicking off. Okay, but what I'm going to be doing is, by default, I'm actually going to use a normal HTML attribute called hidden. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to our chill music. There we go. Nice. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and do a hidden button, and I'm going to say type submit. Okay, because we're inside of a form, which means that this is the one that will get hit when we hit the enter key. Okay. Somebody said, do you prefer Tailwind rather than Bootstrap? Hell yeah, dude. Tailwind is my jam now. I love Tailwind, right? And then what I'm going to do is on click of this button, I'm going to trigger a search function. Now this search function is actually going to be very similar to the one that we had before. In fact, it's going to be the same one. So you could, as homework, extend it out, you know, create the same thing again. But what we're going to do in this search function is pretty simple. We're going to say e.prevent default so that it doesn't do the whole refresh. I'm going to get the const term from the search input ref.current.value. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if there was no term. So if the user didn't type anything out in, then what I'm going to do is go ahead and say return. So we don't want to kind of execute past that. Okay. Sadiq says new subscriber saying, thank you so much, dude. Appreciate you. Right. And then I'm going to say router.push, right? Router.push, because when you search, remember all we're doing is pushing them to a /. We're doing it backticks because we're going to interpolate. I'm going to push them to a search with the term being the term that they've entered in the search field. This means that when they type in a new search here, let's actually try it out right now. Okay. So I'm going to go full screen on this and you can see it's at the top, it says term testing. So if I type in hello world and I hit enter, you see how it says now, it says hello world, right? So that's how we do that. Okay. We are going to be using Google API, dude. So we are going to be doing that. Right now for the header, right? So this is looking pretty nice at this point. The header, I'm going to start giving it a little bit of styles because it's looking a bit kind of janky, right? I'm actually going to stick it to the top. So I'm going to get this nice stick effect. So you know how it sticks to the top up here, right? The way we do that is we basically just say, we apply a class name of sticky and we say stick to the top of the screen, top 0, not top O. And then we say background is white. And that's because if without that, you're going to see the elements as you scroll over them. That's the first step. Okay. The second step is that all of this stuff right now should have actually been inside of a div. So I'm going to pop a div open and I'll make this very clear for you. I'll pop a div open and I'm actually going to go ahead and get the image, everything in the form, cut it and pop it inside of a div. So we have a little container. Okay. And then I'm going to give this a class name of flex with a width of 4. Okay. And the P of 6, which means padding top, left, right, and bottom of 6. Okay, I'm going to center the items in the center. Okay, and that will go ahead and actually fix the aspect ratio difficulty. Now you can see that this is looking pretty good, right? But we have a slight issue with the sizing here, right? So let's figure out where we went wrong there with the sizing, and then we can fix that. So for the form, we had a pixel padding of 6, Y of 6, margin left, margin right, border gray, rounded 4, flex grow. That's the one that we're missing, right? So here what I want to say is I want this input field to expand, right? But we already apply a max width of 3XL, but I want to go ahead and say flex grow. So use up all the space that I'm giving you, dude. Right, so go ahead and say flex grow. There we go. Okay. So now if it has available space, it will use it. And then we also have those icons, which are purely responsive on their own. So you guys can see how this is really quite crazy, right? This is really nice, right? So with that said, so somebody says I should focus on that now. I've been using Bootstrap for the past year. Dude, I would say honestly, it's so easy to pick up Tailwind that I would recommend it. I highly recommend it. All right, let's carry on, guys. So much fun. All right. So with that said, or the final thing I'm going to do is outside of my form. So outside the form over here, I'm going to pop in the avatar. Remember we created an avatar earlier. So our own custom avatar. And we gave this a URL. Okay. Now the URL I'm going to give this, just remember I gave it like I've shortened the URL for the picture of me, that lovely picture of me, the coaching Papa React one where I'm wearing a tux. There we go. Boom. And because it's flex grow, it's just going to move out the way. Easy. So move out the way. And then I'm going to say class name here. It should be ML auto. And that's because when we hit that large screen, you see how it's kind of like this is using up the max space it can, but then it hits that max width 3XL. But then this one isn't going to basically use up its appropriate space. So I want to do a margin left auto, which means that it will distance itself from the appropriate object, right? So what I can do here is I can just go to my avatar and I can give it a class name of ML auto. Now, you're probably going to wonder here, well, Sonny, that did nothing. It didn't do anything, right? Because this is a custom component. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pass class name as a prop through to avatar, right? So it's going to be a class name prop. Then I'm going to change this to become backtick, a backtick JSX string argument, okay? Then here what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pass through my class name that I passed in as a prop. Now what this does is anything I pass in here as a string will simply get appended to my CSS, which means that it will also take higher priority over these values, which is quite nice, right? Now, if you see that, if I go bigger now, boom, we get our CSS passed through our own custom component, which is super clean. Now look how nice that is, guys. Like fully responsive, looks really, really clean, right? Now, firstly, like if you're new to the video right now and you haven't seen that, smash the thumbs up button. Right now, we're gonna go ahead and create this header options section, okay? So let's go down to our div where we have this. And underneath here, all I'm gonna do is create a header options component, okay? So this is gonna be header options, and this is gonna be responsible for all of the things you see here, plus all of these, you know, the highlighting and all that stuff, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and create that header options component. So I hit save here, I'm gonna create a header options.js. I'll do underscore RFCE, there we go. And we have this save, and I'll go ahead, go back to my search page. Let's go back to the search page, and then I'm gonna go down here and import the, into the header. And then I'm going to go ahead and import the header options from our file that we just created. Okay. I am on a Mac. Yes, I'm on a MacBook Pro. Okay. So we have the header options here. And then what we're going to do is we just build out the header options. Okay. As we need it. So the header options next is pretty interesting how we get this one done. Okay. So for header options, I'm going to go ahead and have a few things happening in this class. Before I do that, I'm going to basically split this up into a left. So left is going to be all of the things over here, and right is going to be all of the things over here. Now, look how responsive this is, right? So firstly, all of the text disappears when it gets to the mobile view, right? So you see how all the text on the icons disappears when it hits the mobile view. That's very important, right? We want that responsive nature. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to be that responsive. Also, the text size changes when we hit a breakpoint. You see how it changes to a smaller text. Okay, so all of that we're going to cover right now. Okay, so I'm going to have a left section and I'm going to have a right section. The right section is pretty simple. It's going to have a div with 2 p tags inside of it. So p times 2, and then we have the settings and tools. Okay, now I'm going to reuse the classes that we added earlier, those custom classes. These are just going to be sort of dummy links. Okay, so these are going to be dummy links on the left and right. That's how we get that looking pretty clean. And for this one, it's going to be relatively simple. I'm going to give it a class name, and here I'm going to say flex space x of 4. Okay, and this will give it spacing between the two elements that are, so if I go ahead and decrease this value to a 2, you'll see that the space between the x components changes. This is a thing that I've actually, I'm loving this right now. Thank you so much, Avnish. I always forget to honestly, I forget to have water, right? Ah, there we go. Thank you so much. All right, let's carry on, guys. Thank you so much, dude, reminding me. Okay. So let's go ahead and smash that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Let's hit 1.1K. Let's just keep going, right? So we've got this happening. So the left part is the interesting part. This is where the magic is really happening, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have a div inside of our left section. The div here is going to have a class name, and this class is going to be flexed with a space of x of 6. So all these children are going to be spaced out with a value of 6. Okay. Now each individual element here, so each individual sort of, you know, these little components are going to be called header option singular, right? So it's all going to be header options. Okay, Craig says this water bottle is sick. Everyone loves that water bottle, right? I've got a new one as well. I've got this a blue one as well, so you guys can see that, right? That's from Chili Bowls, right? Hopefully they can sponsor us one day, who knows. I'm going to create a component called header option singular. Okay, now I'm going to create this component. It's the sole purpose of this one is that we don't have to repeat a lot of code. So header option.js. Anyone who thinks Tailwind is, you know, repetitive and you repeat code, remember you're coding in React, which means you're doing functional, reusable components. Hence, you shouldn't have to repeat yourself that much. Okay, so inside of here, I'm going to import header option like so. And that's perfect. Nice. Now I'm going to import a bunch of different icons that I'm going to need from Hero Icons. So you guys can go ahead and do that like so, right? You guys can pretty much do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and simply pop in the appropriate things. Okay, so the header option is going to have an icon. So the first one is going to be responsible for the search icon. Okay, so this is going to be the search icon. It's going to have a title, which is going to be all. Okay, and this first one only is going to have a selected prop because we want the first one to have a selected blue default prop. Right. The next one that we're interested in is going to be similar to this, but it's going to be photograph icon with the title of images, like so. Okay, and that one's not going to be selected. And then the next ones are going to be as follow. I'm just going to go ahead and pop them in right here to save us some time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and build this out. So we've got 3 props to be considerate about: icon, title, selected. Bear in mind, icon has a capital L because we're passing in a component itself. Okay, all right, so that's how we go ahead and do that. Imagine buying Gucci glass. No, dude, that's the biggest waste of money. I'd never do that. All right, so now we've got the header option. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and type in, firstly, the props come here. I'm going to use ES60 structuring to split them apart, get the icon, get the title, get the selected values. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to return some stuff here. Okay, so what I'm going to return here is going to be, everything's going to be sort of, firstly, the class name is going to be flex. I am going to do some string interpolation here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use JSX brackets with a backtick. I'm going to say this is going to be flexed. Okay, it's going to be flexed. And inside of here, I'm going to have the icon that I passed in, right? This is going to have a class name of 4, right? So it's going to have a class name of H4. So it's going to have a height of 4. So in that case, we can see all of those icons kind of pop in there. Okay. Then I'm going to have a p tag with a class name. So we're going to use Emmet here just to show you can do that. Hidden. Okay. And then I'm going to have hidden by default. But when you break the small point, it'll be inline flex. Now I will explain that. And that's going to be the title. Now remember how it hides on a small screen, right? So think about it. When it goes big, you want to see the text. When it goes to a small screen, then you just want to see the icons. And that's sufficient. Okay. So that's going to be pretty nice when we do it that way. Right, so the chat's popping off today, guys. I love the energy you guys are giving out. Right, I think we're so close to hitting 1.1k as well, guys, which is just like mind blowing. Right, so that's actually crazy. So at this point, we've got this happening. So I want to go ahead and do the appropriate stuff next. So we've got flex, and then I'm going to say items center. Okay. So we're actually very close to hitting that number. Okay, so div flex, and then here I'm going to say item center. So right now you can see, let's go ahead and make this 50-50 so that way you can see what's happening. Yeah, items center, and then you can see everything goes centrally. I'm going to say space x1, so space between the x components of 1. Border bottom is going to be a 4. Okay, so there's going to be a border underneath all of them because you can see this, and this is actually the hover effect that we have here. Okay, so the border by default is going to be border B4, and then we're going to say border is transparent by default. Okay, so that's an interesting one. So transparent by default. So we don't want to show it by default. Okay, we only want to show it when we hover. Right, so what I'm going to say is hover. We will go ahead and say the text is blue. Firstly, text is blue of 500. I want the cursor to become a pointer. So you guys can see how much CSS I'm applying here by very small amounts. Okay, cursor dash pointer, sorry. Okay. Oh, thank you, Siddharshan Pani. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate that. So now you can see we get this nice little hover effect. Okay, awesome stuff. And I also want to do hover. I'm going to change another hover here. I'm going to say hover, border blue 500. Yeah, I'm going to say padding bottom of 3. Let's go ahead and do that. And you can see now, look at that, how we get that nice little hover effect. Okay. Now we're putting the class name in string literals because I will be applying a little conditional here. Right now I'm going to say if it was the selected one, so if we passed in the selected value here, then I'm going to have some JSX. I'm going to say if it was selected, then I want the value to be text blue 500 by default. This one's jam. I find this one pretty chilled out. I always like this when it comes on Twitch. If you're not following me on Twitch, by the way, what are you doing? Because it's so much fun when I'm coding on Twitch. Okay, border blue. I code a lot more on there, casual. All right, so border blue 500. And then you can see, oh, okay, so this is interesting, right? I've actually got it the wrong way around, I think. So I actually wanted to do only if it's selected, we apply the following, sorry. So I want to apply these styles only if you're selected. There you go. Right, and then that way, the one that's selected will automatically have that value applied. So this is pretty nice, right? I think that looks pretty clean. And if we go ahead and make this smaller, the text disappears, but all of our highlighting still is there, right? We still get all of the highlighting and such, right? So really, really clean looking design. So the header options at that point are pretty much done, okay? So we need to sort out the styling of this. This doesn't look ideal at the moment. So let's target this outer class name. Okay, so the header options, outer class name. This is quite an interesting one. We've got flex, okay? So by default, if we do flex, you see how that one got brought up because by default, flex is row. And then what we're gonna do is say use the width. Okay, so width full. And remember, mobile first design. Always think mobile first design, right? Everything is mobile first design, okay? Vedant says, let's go, Sonny. Keep doing this, man. Love you. Honestly, I appreciate you guys so much, right? Here I'm gonna say text should be gray. So text gray, and I'm gonna say text gray of 700. Oops, text gray 700. There we go. And I'm going to say justify the stuff evenly. Okay, so not center, I'm going to say evenly. And then you can see everything goes into the center. Now, this gives you a nice kind of responsive feel. Okay, it gives you a nice responsive feel, but it doesn't snap to this side like I wanted it to, right? So we need to get it to snap to the side. Shrikant Vengala, thank you so much, dude. Appreciate that. $5 donations. Thank you so much, dude. Avnish said, oh, he just dropped the Twitch link. So make sure you follow me on Twitch, subscribe on Twitch. It helps out the channel. And also it's a lot of fun over that side. I code a lot of, casual things like that. Ray says, I wonder if people still code without mobile first in their brain. Honestly, I did. I didn't code with mobile first until like Tailwind kind of was a bit of a wake up call again. So I would recommend you like things like this will enforce you to follow the right ways of doing things. By default, the text should be small. Okay. Now, when we hit the large breakpoint, I want the text to go back to the normal size. So we say text base. Okay. So when we get to a large screen now, if you go to a large screen, it goes back to its original size. Otherwise, it's a small text. And then I'm going to say large. It should also become justify start. Right. I don't want it to be, when I get to the large screen, I want it to come to the beginning of the page. Okay. So this is saying large colon. Justify start. So now you should see it will snap to the start on the large screens. Otherwise, it will be sort of, centering itself. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is say large should also have a space between its X components of, let's say 36, which was a nice sweet spot. And you can see now, look at that. We've got that nice spacing of 36. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say on a large as well, we're going to go ahead and say padding left of 52. And this will go ahead and align it nicely to that edge there, right? So look at that. That's very nice. Okay. And if we do it and we get smaller, it'll start to resize accordingly. And look how clean that is, guys. That's how we get that desired look and feel. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finally apply a border bottom. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say border bottom. So border B dash. And then the interesting one here is that they don't have their appropriate value. So if I do 2, it's too thick. I don't want it that thick. I want 1, but 1 isn't supported out of the box. So because we're using JIT Tailwind, we can go ahead and use a custom value. So I'm going to say 1 pixel. And I get a nice little thin 1 pixel. Okay. Now this is looking clean, guys. This is exactly how we get to this point. Right. So you see that's the top bit done. Right. So the top bit is nicely done at the moment. Right, we have all of this working. So this is where the fun stuff comes in, right? So what we're going to go ahead and do now is actually go ahead and fit in the search functionality. So this is the portion of the build where we have server-side rendering, okay? So server-side rendering is basically when somebody visits your page, typically what happens is that everything happens on the client. The app loads on the client, the JavaScript loads on the client. What we're going to do is flip it a bit. So the client requests to come to your page or your website. So if I click on google.com, I will go ahead and hit the Google server. The Google server basically was in the server, which means all the results and everything are fetched on the server. And then I just get the entire HTML, CSS, and JavaScript thrown at me, right? As in like the rendered stuff thrown at me. The search doesn't happen on the client. It's happening on the server. Then it will figure out all the results and then it will send it to me. This makes it a lot more optimal. It makes it a lot more easier to go ahead and build this stuff. Okay. So let's go ahead. Border B is 1 pixel by default. Oh, nice. Is it really? I did not know that. Thank you, dude. Let me try that. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Craig Hart. I did not know that. Okay, nice stuff. Border B is actually 1 pixel by default. I didn't know that it was 1 pixel by default. See, learn something new every day. That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much. All right, that's actually really cool. Now I'm thinking about all of the possible things which are nice. Okay, I was wondering, I was like, why would they leave 1 out? Right? That makes a lot of sense now. Okay, so with that said, we're going to go ahead and create the sort of server-side rendering, right? So Next.js is pretty cool. The way it does it is you can pretty much go here to the search, right? And then we've already got the header built out, so I can remove that. Now we need to build the search results. But before we do that, this page, when it renders, is built on the server. So every time you can see, if I go ahead and refresh, it will go ahead and it will compile the page, compiles it successfully, and then it'll build it for us. Now, right now, this is a static page, which means that it's not being rendered on the server. It's a static page. I'm not going to go too far into Next.js on that side, but what we're going to be doing here is we're going to basically have our first server-side rendering function. So the way we do it in Next, and the way we tell Next is, because if you're wondering, is SSR hard? Next, make it extremely easy now. If you include this special get server-side props function, only then will it treat this page, bear in mind, not the entire site, just this page. It splits the app up into different pages. It will treat this page as a server-side rendered page, okay? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and do this. We're gonna go ahead and say export async. And this is happening on the server right now, okay? Function, and I'm gonna say get server side props. So this is a magic function, so you have to use that name. This gives us something called the context, okay? And we can use the context as an argument when we're handling the sort of, when we need to get things from the query, the URL and stuff like that, okay? So what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna create a little bit of a helper function, because Google search API limits you to 100 free searches a day on the developer API. So you don't exhaust that quota, what I do is I make a request once, I capture the JSON in a response file, and then I'll show you how you can use dummy data to mock the sort of prospective response so that you don't exhaust your quota. Okay, so that's going to help you out a lot when you're doing sort of API work in the future, even on production stuff. So use dummy data is going to be by default, let's just say false, right? While we're getting things set up. Thank you so much, Sai, for the lovely donation. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, so we're going to say const data equals, okay? Now I need the Google API at this point, right? I need to go ahead and get the Google API and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to my, I'm going to create a file called keys. So keys.js, and I need two things in this, right? I need a, so inside this file, I need an API key, and I need a context key, right? The API key allows us to use the Google API. It's basically the key that allows us to use the Google services. And then the context key is the interesting one. The context key is basically you can create a context by visiting the following link. Okay, so you guys can create a context by visiting this link over here. Okay, so this is the link you want to visit to create context. And this is basically the context for which you're searching, okay? So you can include certain sites, because remember, you can create custom searches on Google, which will only kind of prioritize certain websites. So you can basically create a custom context and then use it in your search. And you have to do that when you're doing this stuff. And then the next one is this handy link that I'll drop over here. So to get the API key, you would visit this link. And again, all of this is inside the Papa GitHub repo, or you can go ahead and do it. Now, I do want to mention, Craig just dropped in, maybe environment.local. Yes, when you're handling production keys or any of this stuff, please understand that you should be using environment variables, okay? And even with Vercel, you can actually have environment variables set when you deploy to the Vercel hosting, right? Now, the only reason why I am doing it as a string inside this tutorial is for the sake of the demo, right? It's a demo because if I start doing all of those things, it's gonna get way into the time frames, and I'll explain it, and it'll just take a lot of time. So that's the only reason I'm using string values here. But you need to make sure you use environment files, okay? So that's a little disclaimer there, okay? Just in case anyone's wondering, right? So now we've got const API key. And this API key, let's just say it is some kind of value, okay? And then we've got const context key. And this is gonna be some kind of key over here. Now I do want to export both of these because I want to use them outside of this file. Now I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and get your API key and how you can go ahead and get your context key. So I'm going to go ahead and click into this link. Okay. So once you get to this screen, you'll basically reach this using REST to invoke the API. Now what you want to do is, I've actually got a key over here, I think. So here, use the key parameter, key query parameter to identify your application. So you click this and then you click over here and then here it says get a key. Okay, so I'm going to click on get a key. And then what you want to do is select a project. So here it says enable custom search API. You want to click this link and then click on create a new project. At this point, I'm just going to say, YouTube build demo. Okay. And I'm going to click next. Now what's going to happen here is I'm not going to show you the key that's going to come up, or I'm not going to show you the key that comes up because somebody is going to end up exhausting the quota and then hence the demo won't work. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys a blurred out version of this in just a sec. So I click this, it says enable custom search, and then it loads the key up. Okay. So what you're going to then see is a key present itself on your screen. And right now I've actually gone ahead and I've reached the limit of quota. So I'm going to use a key that I previously got. So I previously got a key. So at this point you would get a key value that comes back. Okay. Or you would get a URL and then it would have a key inside of it. Okay. So you want to go ahead and copy that key, right? And it will look something like this. Okay. So your key will look something like this. So it'll be some random sort of squiggly stuff. This is not an actual key. Okay. So it'll basically look something like this, right? You would have a random squiggly key at that point, right? And what you want to do is put your key here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my key here. And then in a second, so I'll go ahead and replace this with my key. The context key is the next one we need to get. So I'm going to click this context key, click this. This is a lot easier to get. Here you can go ahead and I'm going to click sites to search. I'm just going to do www.google.com. And then I'm going to do name of Google search, Google, okay, create. And then this will go ahead and create. And then you go ahead and click add it to your site. Click on get code. And this is what you need to grab. This context. This is your ID. Okay. So you want to go ahead and grab this ID. Now I also have a value here. I already have a value for this one. Now the context ID doesn't really matter. Okay. That one doesn't really, you don't mind if that one is shared, but the API key, you don't want to exhaust. Okay. So at this point, what you're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop in a key here. And then for the API key, I will be popping in a value as well. But I'm going to hide my screen while I do that because I don't want to sort of, exhaust that quota. So I'm going to go ahead, pop in a key here, hit save. And then I'm going to exit this key file. And then I can now use it throughout my application. So I'm now back at search.js. Okay. So we have our two keys that we needed. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and say const. And this bit you have to pay a little bit of attention to, okay? So I'm going to say const data equals, and I'm going to say if we're using, so I'm not going to use the dummy data yet. I'm going to say await fetch, okay? And then here what I'll do is I'll do backticks. And what we're going to say is it's going to be https www.googleapis/customer search /v1. Okay, so this is what we need to type in, okay? So once you get to this point, what we need to do is we're going to actually have some important variables that we're going to add on to the URL. So the first one is the key variable. Okay. Now this key variable, we're going to go ahead and say is our API key. So API underscore key. API underscore key. And this key, we need to import this from our previous file. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say import API key. And I'm going to import the context key from, let's go upper file, from our keys file. Okay. So again, this is not you should be using environment variables to populate those values inside the keys, but that's how you do it. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the following. So, oh, thank you, dude. I appreciate that. So now what we're going to say is that's going to be our key. And then we're going to add a second variable, which is the context. Okay. So the context is going to be this one here. So we're going to say context key. And then we're going to add another one, which is going to be Q equals. And this is going to be the query. Okay. So how do I get the query from the URL? The URL in question is this one. So remember, it's search and the query term is term here, right? How do I get that on the server? Remember I said we get the context on the server request. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is thank you so much, Siva, for that really nice, and thank you, Sai, for the LinkedIn donation. Thank you, dude. Brazil, hey, nice, awesome stuff. So here we're going to say q equals, and I'm going to say context dot query dot term. Okay, context dot query dot term, and now the next bit is pagination, but I'm going to leave pagination for now. But that's how we would go ahead and get the term. Okay, so that's how we get our search term. So this will basically make a request to Google. It will use our key. It will use the context key, so it knows what site to search. And then the query, it will be the query that we basically entered in, right? So that's how it's going to do. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say, after the fetch, we're going to say dot then. And then I'm going to say response is going to be response.json. Okay, so this will go ahead and pass the response as a JSON object. And then what we need to do is we need to pass the results to the client. Okay, so remember, this is the server side rendering, right? So after, let's just say after the server side render, so we say after the server has rendered, pass the results to the client. Think of it kind of like that, okay? So this is basically where the SSR has kicked in. So we say return, and what we do is we return the props, right? So all we're doing is we render a bunch of stuff beforehand on the server, and then the way that the client sees it is, as soon as the person gets on the page, their component or the functional component that will load will actually just get the props from the server side render, and we're just going to call that results, and it's going to be results is data. And then what happens is the search, we simply get the props come through. Okay, props come through here, and then we just say the results. Now this will just take some practice. Okay, it takes a little bit of practice just to get used to this. But what we can do now is we can console log the results. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is just to prove that it works is we're going to go back to our app over here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit F12, and you should now be able to see it says undefined. Okay, interesting. Let's go ahead and double check why that's happening. That's not what we want. So we're going to go ahead and see this. It says const data. Hit save, and then I'm going to get the results, and then we're going to go ahead and do the following. So now I'm going to go ahead and refresh this, type in hello world. There we go. This is the response that comes back. Okay, so this is the response that comes back, and you see it's got a bunch of items, and these are all the Google search results. Okay, so what we want to do here is, like I said before, the API is going to give you a certain quota, which is 100 requests a day. When you're developing, you're going to max that out quickly, okay? So what I would recommend at this point is do the following thing. This will save your quota, not just for this one, but it will save it for your any other production build that you're trying to do, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to copy, right click and copy object, okay? So I'm going to copy the object. I'm going to go back to my code, okay? I'm going to make a file over here, so outside of here, I'm going to make a file called response.js. So this is going to be response.js, okay? And inside of response.js, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have, I'm going to say export default, and then I'm going to do an object, and I'm going to go ahead and paste my object and hit save. And Prettier will go ahead and fix this for me. So the first thing I need to do is actually, I don't need these square brackets because I think it comes in square brackets. There we go, hit save. And then you should see Prettier fixes it for you. And now we have a sort of mocked response from the server. Okay, this is a mocked response from the server. And you can also use this to see what you get back at the different levels. So this will be a handy way of doing that, okay? I'm gonna restart the playlist. There we go, nice. Okay. So with that said, and I think we have passed, we are at 1.1k likes. Incredible, crazy stuff, guys. Okay, so this will prevent you from exhausting your quotas whenever you're working with something. So now what I want to do is to make use of that dummy data. I'm going to go ahead and say use dummy data is false, right? For now, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to become. I'm actually going to make this become. I'm going to say if use dummy data, then I'm going to basically return the response, response, else await, okay? And then this response I need to pull in, okay? So the response I need to go ahead and import from that file, okay? So this one, there we go, nice. And what this will do is it will go ahead and basically allow us to have a little switch, So whenever I don't want to go ahead and, you know, if I want to use dummy data now, I can just say true. And regardless of what I type in now, so now if I go here and I type in anything, we should get the same results every time now. So if I click refresh, so you see if I type in a new value, it gives me basically the dummy mock result. Okay, so this will prevent you from exhausting your quota, which trust me happens. Okay, you're probably going to wonder like, oh no, it doesn't work, it won't happen to me. Trust me, yes it will. And you're going to exhaust your quota, and then you're going to have to wait a day, or you're going to have to put your credit card in. Okay, and at that point you're just going to get annoyed. So that's what we're going to do right now. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to prepare myself for pagination. Okay, so pagination, what I'm going to do is right now we include something called the term inside of the query when in the URL. What we're actually going to do is prepare ourselves very soon we're going to go ahead and implement pagination. I'm going to say context.query, and I'm going to include something called start, and that's going to be a number which will refer to the page that we're starting from, okay, or the search results that we're starting from. That number will either be present or by default it will be 0. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my results. I'm going to basically add on another one which says start equals, and then this will be the start index. Okay, start index, like so. And now we've got like a sort of a pagination starting point. Okay, so wow, you guys are insane. We have so many people watching right now, which is like, it's crazy. We actually have so much like everyone just sticking around. That's awesome stuff, guys. Thank you. Okay, coffee done. Let's go. So what we're going to do is we've got the server-side props rendering. So we've got this coming through here, and do is I'm going to create a search results component. So I'm going to say search results. And also what I'm going to do is for the search results here, instead of this, I'm actually going to pull in the router. Right, so I'm going to say const router equals use router. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull in the use router component hook. And then we've got our router. And now instead of saying search results, I actually want to make this kind of cool. I want to say router dot query. Oops. Router dot query dot term. And then I'm going to say dash Google search. And this way, whatever we're searching will basically go ahead and be inside the browser. So you see in our production one, we've got testing Google search. Okay, so that's what I kind of want to get to. Okay. So at this point, we should have that actually right now inside of ours. So if we go ahead and check it now, so you can see now at the top, rather than that, if I type in hello world, you should see hello world Google search, which is awesome, right? Two Savage says, what's up, Papa Fan? What's up, dude? Nice. So let's carry on. So the search results, let's go ahead and say search results. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pass the results that we got from the server here as results. Okay. So I'm going to pass this in as a prop, and let's go ahead and hit save. I'm going to create this component right now. So I'm going to create the search results component. So search results.js, and then I'm going to do underscore RFCE. Nice. Okay. So once we've got the search results up, the next step is we're going to get those search results that we passed. And remember, the props come in here. We're going to do some ES6 destructuring, and I'm going to do results like so. Okay. And then what we're going to do is the search results is not defined, which is fine. Here we can go ahead and import it as such, and then I can go ahead and hit refresh, and then you should get here. Okay, so once you get to this point, remember that we are near the end. Okay, so we're actually near there. We're near that point now. So stay tuned, and we're going to get to that very quicker than you think. Trust me. Okay, so now we've got console log results, which is going to help us out when we're coding, debugging, and that sort of good stuff. Okay, so if I type in, let's just type in test. And then we see we get our search results, which are from our mocked argument. Okay, so we're not exhausting the quota, and we're doing everything at our own pace. So we get the header and search results, and this will actually be the final outcome of this file, which is really clean when you think about it. So inside of search results, we're gonna have a p tag, and the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna say about this many results. Okay, so about blah 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 number of results. So what we can do here is we can say we're gonna say about. Okay, and then here inside of the results we have a few things. Okay, so here if we look inside of the results, we have results.search information, and then here you can see formatted total results and formatted search time. Okay, so they give us the values that we're actually looking for here. Right, so here you can actually see all the different values that we're actually looking for are perfectly presented as we need them. Okay, so Google actually has quite a cool API. It gives it back in the way we need it. So here I'm going to say results.search information. And yes, you can go ahead and refactor this. We're going to do some optional chaining in case it's not available. We don't want to sort of, crash our app. I'm going to say formatted total results and hit save. And then you can see about 204,000 or million results. Okay, so now you can see as we do this, results. And this is what I love about Next.js is that as I'm typing in, it's going to go ahead and populate as I hit save. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a bracket and I'm going to have some seconds. And before the seconds, I'm going to have a JSX. And then, I'm going to say results.search information.formatted search times. Okay, so formatted search times. And now you can see about this many results and this many seconds. Okay, so this is really awesome stuff and it looks really, really clean. Okay. You should add a separate badge for Papa Fan members on YouTube. Yes, I should actually. I will definitely consider doing that in a sort of easy way to manage, because that's a very good idea, dude. But remember, everyone who's on the YouTube right now, right? Like, if you are interested, check out the link to Zero to Full Stack here in the description. Join the course, right? Honestly, the Papa Fan members are insane. We help each other out. We support each other. If you enjoy YouTube, you should belong in that family over in the course. Okay. So we've got the P tag over here and we just focus on results. That's all we do. Okay. So let's go ahead and firstly style this out a little bit. So I want this P tag to look a little bit nicer. I'm going to give it a class name, and the class name I'm going to give it is text gray. So I'm going to say text gray of 600. Okay. And then I'm going to say text is medium sized. And then I'm going to say a margin bottom of 5 and a margin top of 3. And then look at that, boom, looks a lot cleaner. Okay, that looks really good. And then what I'm going to do is for the search results themselves, I'm actually going to give this one an interesting sort of spacing suggestion. Okay, so here you can see the search results. The way we do it is we have several breakpoints, which are basically the default one has some basic padding. Okay, this is a mobile view. Remember, mobile first design is what we do. Okay, so firstly we have this, and as we get bigger, I start to change this. So here we've increased the padding a little bit. Okay. And then I get a bit bigger and then we increase the padding. We start to center the element. I get a bit bigger and we stick the element to the side. And that's how we do it. Okay. So the way that we do that is we go ahead and we say MX auto, which means the margins on the left and right axes are automatic. And then I'm going to go ahead and say the width is full. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the following. I'm going to say PL, which means padding left should be 3. Padding right should be 3. Oops, 3. Padding right should be 3. And then, so you could do, padding X should be 3 at this point. If they're both the same, padding X is 3. Cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say on the small breakpoint, I'm going to do padding left to be 5%. Okay, so padding left should be 5% at this point. I'll make this full screen while we do this. Okay. And then when I hit the medium breakpoint, I'm going to change padding left to become 14%. Okay. And these are different values that I've worked out and they've kind of look a bit nicer when we do it. Okay, now there are several ways to do this, but this is the way that I'm doing it today. PL52. So this is basically changing the different padding options based on how big the screen is. So right now you can see slight difference. And then if we go ahead and make it bigger, you see how it changes and it gets into the correct place, okay, on the screen, which is really nice. Okay, so now that our container is looking sleek and it's looking as we want and expect it, now what we can do is we can focus on the content inside the container. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say results. Okay, so remember, if we look at the response that comes back, we go into the items, we get all of the items here, and then they've got all the information inside of them. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to map through the items. So results dot items, and we're going to do optional chaining to protect ourselves in case it's not there. We're going to say map, and then we're going to say the result. For every single result, I want to go ahead and output the following. Okay, so I want to output some JSX, right, which is going to be our components, and I'm going to start off with a div. Okay, inside the div, I'm going to say that the key, remember, whenever you're mapping something, you should always use keys correctly. When you're dealing with any kind of iteration or list in React, you should always be using your keys. In this case, I'm going to use the link as a key because it's unique for every sort of link. And then I'm going to say the class name is going to be max width XL. So I'm going to give it a max width. In this case, we're going to give it XL. And then I'm going to say margin bottom of 8. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is inside there, I'm going to have two things. I'm going to have one, which is going to be the Let's think about how we do this. So right now what I want is, you see in this final build, irrelevant of if I hover over the text or if I hover over this, it's grouped together. And then I have this snippet of text underneath. Okay. So I'm going to show you how we get that. So even if I hover over here, you see how that underlines, right? I'm going to show you how we do this special effect in Tailwind. Okay. So the first thing is we're going to have a div, right? And the div is going to be for the heading and the link. And then underneath is something that we're going to call the snippet. Okay. So firstly, that's going to be the sort of heading, and then the snippet is underneath. The snippet is going to have result.snippet, and that's actually going to be the iterated value. So it's going to be result.snippet. And you're going to see some stuff pop in now. So these are going to be all the sort of, you know, the search result links underneath. Okay. And these are search results mocked up for Hello World. Okay. And now what we're going to do is, obviously I do want to have some truncate. So, you know, where it cuts off the line. And look, what I've actually managed to do here is after 2 lines, it will cut off. Now we're going to use a very cool little trick called line clamp. It's a plugin on Tailwind CSS. And I'll show you how we do it today. Right. But if you're wondering how I get access to this information, I'm using this object. Okay. So that's how we do it, in case you're wondering. Okay. So we've got that done. And then what I'm going to show you how we truncate it in a sec. But first I'm going to have an A tag. The href here is going to be the result.link. And you can use the link element in Next.js as well. It's completely fine. And here I'll say class name equals text sm. So it's going to be a small link, and the link itself would be result.formatted URL. If I hit save now, we should see the link pop up underneath it. Okay. Then what we're going to do is underneath the A tag, I'm going to have another A tag, and the href here would be the same. It will be a result.link. Okay. Then the A tag here would actually be a h2 inside of it, because I want it to be like a heading for SEO purposes. We're going to have a class name SEO, but we're doing Google. So that's quite funny. If you got that joke, let me know. If you didn't, it's all good. All right. And then I'm going to say result.title. There we go. And then I'm going to do class name, and I'm going to go ahead and say truncate firstly, which will go ahead and it's got a nice truncate built in. We're going to say text is going to be XL. So it's going to be extra large text. And there we go. You can see it starts to come in there. And then we're going to go ahead and change this to a text blue 800, which is actually extremely close to the Google color, which is nice. I'm going to give the font a medium sort of weight to it. Okay, that's nice. And then I'm going to say group. Okay, so this is where the special hover functionality comes in. Okay, so you guys can notice how when I hover over this, I want it to basically be in this fashion. Okay, so I want it to be in this fashion. Now, how do I do it? Firstly, this test data is kind of trash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace it. I basically searched for testing before, and in the response, I got the following back. So you don't need to worry about this, but you can just swap it out for whatever you search for. But now we get nicer testing results. There we go. But here what I'm going to do is I want it so that when I hover over this, you can see firstly it's a link. You can see on the bottom left, this actually is going to, if I click it, it will take me to another website. Okay. But what I need to do here is have it so that when I hover over it, it works. Now, how do we do this inside of this application? The way we do it is we go to the parent div. Okay. So I'm just going to go to my search results. We go to the parent div, which is outside here. And then we give it something called group. Okay. So we're going to create a group. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, so that now we know that this is the group in question. Okay. Then what I do is I go over to this element and I say, okay, when I hover over this, I want it to underline. So I'm going to say group, hover, underline, and this will underline the text. Now, if I hover over any of this stuff in the group, you see how the underline is applied to that H2 element. Even if I hover over here, because it's part of the group of children, now this will get the underline effect. And that's how we get that nice little effect happening, okay? Now you can see the difference here is that the truncate is happening, but it's after 3 lines, which isn't ideal, right? We want it after 2, okay? And in some cases, you might want it after 1, okay? Joseph says, this build is amazing, just got it late. Dude, honestly, catch up when you can, and it's gonna be a lot of fun for you, man. Almost a 1.2K likes. That's amazing, guys, thank you. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have a nice little plugin. So in Tailwind CSS, you can have plugins which basically power up your Tailwind, okay? So I'm going to go to my Tailwind config, and here you've got the nice little plugin section, okay? So the way that we do this one is we go to Tailwind, and it's something called Tailwind line clamp. So I'm actually going to show you over here. So I'm going to say Tailwind line clamp. Okay, and I'm going to click this, and then you see multi-line truncation with Tailwind. This is a little blog, but you can pretty much go ahead and follow it. And all you need to do is install this dependency. Okay, so I'm going to copy this dependency and install it into my app. So I'm going to do Command J, and then I'm going to show you guys how I do it. So I'm going to open up another terminal, and I'm going to go in here and do Tailwind CSS. I'm going to do yarn add. There we go. And this will go ahead and add it in. Now I should have added that as a developer dependency. It's okay. You can make sure just next time when you do it as a developer dependency instead. And then what you want to do is you want to go into the plugins over here, and you want to go ahead and say require, like so, like this. Okay. So I'm going to go into here and require. Okay, now we want to get rid of that little thing. There we go. Now, if you want to use it, all you need to do is if you've got a long block of text and you say line clamp 3, it will truncate, which means ... after 3 lines are hit. Okay, so it's very, very powerful when you think of it in that sense. Okay, so the way I'm going to do it is actually use it slightly different. I'm going to use it in a sort of 2-line fashion. So it's not that different, to be honest. So I'm going to go back to my search results, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say it should be a line clamp of 2. Okay, so here I'm going to say class name, and it's going to be line clamp of 2. Now watch this. As soon as I hit save, boom. That's nice, right? And if we change this to line clamp 1, you can even shorten the results even further. Okay, so that's really, really nice. Okay. Developer dependency is something that we only need in the development environment. When the production bundle is made, do we need Tailwind CSS? No, because remember, it will compile the code up into a production bundle. So they don't, the person using our website doesn't need access to Tailwind stuff. Only the developer does. The text in the stream is really blurry today. It will be fine afterwards, honestly. It'll be clear. It's probably internet connection, that's all. Okay, but this is looking pretty good, right? Okay, so now what we want to do is let's add in pagination. So firstly, I just want to show you guys, it's fully responsive at this point. Okay, so look, it's fully responsive, it's changing. And as we get smaller and smaller, it even has a max width, and it has a nice little truncate feature. And look how clean that is. Look, and we've even got the truncate here when we do the truncate on the H2. Right, so really, really clean. Smash the thumbs up button if you think that that is a clean build. Okay, so we've done that now. Now let's go ahead and add in the next thing, which is the pagination. Okay, and then I'll exhaust my API quota and we can do it. Okay, so this one I've actually made really nice for you. So underneath your search results, I want you to write a pagination buttons class, a component, sorry. Right, and this is actually super clean because now we've got all of these separate components doing separate things that just work. Right, everything just works. Right, I mean, obviously not that. Right, so now I'm going to go ahead and create this pagination buttons.js, like so, and then I'm going to do _RFCE. Done. Okay, now with this bit, what we do is we go ahead and Craig got it right there. He says yarn add -d for developer dependencies. Yes, exactly. So inside of pagination buttons now, we're going to go ahead and we've got our div. And then I want to go ahead and say, so we're going to have a few things in there. We're going to have a previous and next, and it's going to be dependent on basically what we show. So if we see the actual development version of this, if I click next and we're on the second page, you see the start is now 10, because what we're doing is we're showing 10 results. Okay, so say we start from the beginning. We're starting from 0. So we're saying start from 0 and show me 10 results. We click next. We say start from 10. Show me the next 10 results. We go to next, start from 20, send me the next 10 results, and then we can go back and start from 10. And you see how it works. And if we go back to the point where we're at 0, it shouldn't show previous. That's how it works. Okay. And then all of the rest happens on server-side rendering. Okay. So at this point, what we're going to do is in here, we're going to need a few things. We need the router. So I'm going to go ahead and say const router equals use router. And before that, I need a water break. So if you're enjoying this right now, let me know in the comments. We still have loads of people watching. Incredible support. Thank you, guys. And if you're not already, subscribe. Thank you. Let's do this. Okay. So we've got the use router over here. So I'm going to go ahead and import this dependency. This is such a beat, honestly. And then I'm going to go ahead and import link from next link. This is like a Next.js A tag, which will allow us to do like our sort of, you know, our routing in a very nice way so that we don't have a refresh when we do it. Okay. And then I'm going to import a few icons from hero icons. So chevron left, chevron right. Okay. And then thank you so much, Avnish. Honestly, I love the positivity you bring, dude. And then what we're going to say is I'm going to get my start index. So the start index, I'm going to basically go ahead and pass it as a number. And this will basically be that value at the top. So you see this one over here where it says start equals 0, right? So when we get that, it's actually a text data type here. So I need to pass it as a number. Or if it's not there, I default it to 0. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, if the start index is greater than or equal to 10, right? Only if it's greater than or equal to 10, should I then render the previous button. Okay, so then I'm going to render a link. So let's go ahead and render a link. Okay, and this is going to be a component, and the link will have a div inside of it, and this will have a chevron left. So let's go ahead and do chevron left icon, and it will have a p tag which says previous. Okay, now this will make a lot of sense when it works, don't worry. And then we go to our search results, and let's just import it so it starts showing us some results. Okay, we go down to the bottom of the screen, and then we should see at this point, let's go to our pagination buttons, and then you see the start index is not 10, so we won't see it right now. Okay, we should always show next because that's always going to be there. So I'm going to say link. This link will have a div inside of it. And then this div will have a chevron right, and it will have a p tag, which has a next. Okay. Vipul says, quality stuff as always. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate your support. Chevron right. Okay. And then link tags require us to give a href. Okay. So for the href in this case, what we're going to be doing is the one down here. I'm going to go ahead and say href equals. And I'm actually going to use some string interpolation here. So I'm going to say /search. And think about what we're doing here, right? I'm going to say, go to the term, which is currently the term that we're searching for. Okay. So we're still going to have the same term that we were searching for. So it's going to be router.query.term. Okay. But the difference is we're going to change the start. So we're going to say, okay, change the start to be whatever the start index was, which was basically what we fetched from the URL param plus 10. Okay, so we're going to add 10 to that. Now, if I do this, you're going to see a massive chevron. And if I click it, it will go ahead and throw us to a start of 10, which means that the next one's going to render. And obviously that hasn't got an href. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing here. But this one is going to have a -10. Okay, so that will go to back 10 elements. So now you can see, look, a forward and a back. So if I click, so notice how when I click on the back one, it goes to start of 0. When I click on the forward, it will go to start of 10. If I click forward again, it'll go start of 20. It'll go back, start of 10. So you see how we're changing those parameters, okay? Now obviously we will style it and make it look nice. Now for these icons, I'm going to go ahead and use dual cursors. So I'm going to type in 2 places at once. I'm going to do class name equals h5, hit save, and now they're a lot smaller, which means they're a lot easier to deal with. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and you made me love coding, Sanand. Thank you so much, dude. I love that, man. I love the fact that I can, like, you know, amp up others to you know, love what they do and want to kind of carry on coding and things like that. Don't spam though, dude. Please don't spam. Okay, thank you. All right, so then what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and have the following styles applied over here. Okay, so I'm going to say div, and I'm going to say class name equals, and I'm going to say flex. Okay, so next to each other, I'm going to say items center. Actually, you know, we'll start off with flex grow. I'm going to say flex column because I want it to be in a column. I want the things to be on top of each other. There we go. And then I'm going to say items in the center. Items center, and obviously Tabnine coming in clutch as always. Cursor is a pointer, and then I'm going to say hover is an underline. Okay, so now you should see when I hover over this, it's nice and look at that, it's clean, right? Super clean. Okay, so I'm going to copy this class name, And you can go ahead and refactor that in a global class name if you would like. I'm just going to do this for now. And now we have the two things which are taking up 100%. Okay, nice. Now the next thing we need to do is go to the parent div, this one here. Change the styling of it. We're going to go to class name equals, and then we're going to say flex. And you should start to see things come into play now. Okay, I'm going to say the max width is going to be large. And this will stop it from, spamming across too much. Okay. And then I'm going to say, okay, justify space between them. Okay, so I'm going to say justify space between. And you're wondering, if I was doing this with raw CSS, teaching it and coding it at the same time would take longer than what we have achieved right now. I'm going to make the text blue of 700, and you can see that this will now change the text below to 700. And I'm going to do a margin bottom of 10, so that way we get a bit of breathing room, right? There we go. Now, do you guys like this? All right, look at this. Previous and back. Now, if I go back previous, it would have gone to the first page, and there you go. Look how clean that is, right? And you can obviously add in some logic which says page 1, page 2, page 3, and so forth. Nice. Okay, so now what we need to do is also go ahead and hook that up. Okay, so we actually got that bit done now. So we've actually got that down, looking pretty damn solid. Right, so if I look at this now, we've got our pagination, but the results aren't actually getting sort of feeded in. Oh, they actually are. I'll show you where. If we go to our search results and we got a level up, so we go to our search page, where we did the server-side render, remember what we did is if the query, so the URL had a start, we grabbed it here. Then we go ahead and query Google using that start index. So it's very, very clean and it works, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say use dummy data false. So I'm going to be using a real API now. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and say type in Papa React. Hit enter. And look at that, guys. 0 to full stack hero. Let's go. That's so clean, right? That's clean and it looks perfectly, right? Tassine, stop spamming, and I'm using Google API. Thank you. All right, so now you can see, look how clean that looks, right? So everything looks perfect and as we expected it to. And if I go on to the next page, we should be able to see, look at that. It went on to the next page of search results. Okay, and then if I click previous, nice, okay? Now if I type in, let's type in React or Tailwind CSS, hit enter, right? Boom, Tailwind CSS, right? Awesome stuff. And I click next page of results. Awesome stuff. Look at that, Tailwind CSS. This song always freaks me out because I think the sound's glitched, but it's not, it's the song, right? If I click next after that, boom. You see that, guys? We're getting different results every time. Hero icons even came up. So the search is actually working pretty good, right? And let's just show you, if just so I'm not lying, Next.js. Okay. Boom. There we go. Okay. If I type in Sunny Sanger, do I come up? It's gonna, hey, there we go. Join me as I build Signal. There we go. Nice. So guys, you can see we have a fully functional Google application here, right? With pagination, with amazing responsiveness. Okay. So that is goddamn clean. Right, and then remember, everything works if we go back to Google over here and we type in from over here. So if I type in React 101, enter, look at that, React 101, and all sorts of stuff come up. Right, you can go back to Google, everything works in the way that we expect it. We have the responsive, beautiful design, everything's working in the way that we wanted it, and it's just clean. Right, and I love this because everything is, it's looking it's so good and it's just so juicy. And like, so what we're going to do now is let me know if you're excited because we're going to deploy this app now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and deploy this application on Vercel, and then we're going to use our amazing guys over at Hostinger to map it to a custom domain, and then you'll be able to have your own domain, for example, like sunnysanger.com. And that will actually go ahead and have the built app, so the Google search engine, the clone, on your own custom domain. Okay, remember, your boy got you a nice little juicy discount, so make sure you use code SUNNY on your yearly plans at Hostinger, and you're going to get 7% off your annual plan. So if you're excited, let's go ahead and do this. Okay. Yeah, Rick, you can definitely change the pagination to numbers if you'd like. This was just getting you set up, Tailwind CSS. There we go. Let's just try again. I can't get enough when it works. It's so cool. It's just so nice, right? And this is really, really nice. And not google.com. That's cool. That's a good one, right? So let's go ahead and do this, right? Let's go ahead and deploy this. So the way we deploy here is we need to go ahead, and I'm going to open up my GitHub. So let's open up a GitHub, and this is the Papa GitHub repo right here, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new repo. If you want access to the Papa GitHub repo, by the way, link is in the description. It has the code for today's build, guys. So if you want the code for today's build, then you can check it out. Vipul says, believe me, dude, you make coding look too easy. Hats off. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate your support. So I'm going to go to my personal GitHub, and I'm going to go ahead and create a project. I'm going to create a new repo. And here I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and say Google clone YouTube. Okay, I'm going to make it private. I'm going to go ahead and create the repository. Nice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this line over here, and I'm going to push this to my GitHub. So in order to push to GitHub, it's very simple. What we do is, and you shouldn't be pushing your keys to GitHub, okay? I'm only doing it for a demo purpose today, but you should do Command J. And then what I'm going to show you here is, let's actually skip this one. This one's a bit hectic for an explanation. Right, there we go. Nice. Let's just do something like this. Okay. So once we have this open, I'm going to go ahead and do the following. We'll say git status, and you should be able to see we have a lot of dirty files, and these are the files that we've adjusted. So what I'm going to do is, firstly, I'm going to connect to my GitHub that we basically got that line of code from. So you see this one over here. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to do git add all, and I'm going to say git status, and look what happens. We just added all of our, we basically staged all of our files to commit it to a commit, okay? So I'm going to say git commit, and here I'll just say something like, let's just say app build, right? This terrible commit message, but it's for a demo. And then I'm going to say git push, right? And then git push pops this up, and you can pretty much just copy this at this point and paste. And this will basically push the code to that branch, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and enter a little password in here. I'm going to say, and obviously I know it's the terminal. I know it's the terminal, but I'm still going to do it anyway, right? There we go. We've gone ahead and done that. And then if I go ahead and go back to this and hit refresh, we should be able to see our code is now inside of our repo, okay? So we now have our code up inside GitHub. So the next step is to hop over to Vercel. Okay, so we hop over to vercel.com/dashboard, or you can just go to Vercel, create an account with them. It's completely free to do so. Okay, once you've done this, yeah, so I want to mention that Craig says, don't forget to hide your API key when deploying. Yes, when you are deploying, make sure you don't have your keys, you know, like on display and things like that. In this case, I'm not going to be sort of, you know, like I'm not going to be sort of hiding it, but what you should be doing is using environment files. I just want to kind of get this build out, okay, and show you guys how to get it done yourself. You can look at something, but what you're going to need to search for is something called environment variables, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to click new project, all right, and then you should see import git repo, and this is the one we just pushed. This is the one from yesterday. This is the one from today. So I'm going to import it, and you basically just connect your GitHub. So it's very easy to do. I click on Sunny, select, and then we're going to go ahead, and you see it automatically figured out it was Next.js, and you don't need to change anything. But here is the interesting part, environment variables, okay? And they encrypt them for you. So just like Craig said, you need to make sure you go ahead. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, so you want to go ahead and you get to this screen. It will figure out everything. And if you click in environment variables, you can go ahead and pop in those variables at this point, and then it would actually sort of, you know, have them stored in an encrypted fashion. So this is the way you should do it. Okay. So now we're on the screen. Sorry about that. And we're 3 likes away from 1.2K. That's crazy. Right. So now what we're going to do is hit deploy. Right. So we're going to go ahead and hit deploy right now. Okay. So now we are deploying our application to Vercel, right? So Vercel is setting up a server which has a, which basically will allow us to have our server-side rendering, everything fully functional and working in the way that we expect it to. Now you can see here it's going to go ahead and install the dependencies, deploy the app, and then they will give us a sort of a Vercel kind of domain name, right? So it'll be something like Vercel demo or something like that, and then it will have Google clone YouTube and so forth, right? So this will take a few seconds. Hopefully it goes through without any errors for this time. So here you can see you've enabled JIT engine, which is currently in preview, because yes, we use some breaking, you know, like breaking tech right here, right? Like we use cutting edge tech where it's the latest and greatest Tailwind stuff. And here you can see perfect. It built out our application. You can see our search page, which is a server-side rendered page, hence why it's got this sign here, server-side rendered. We've got the And then we got the rest of the pages as such. And then, hey, we get this page, right? So this is perfect, right? It's working. And we're using Vercel today because it's a lot easier to deploy a Next.js server-side rendered application using Vercel, because those guys develop Next.js. So, you know, it makes sense, right? So, and it's also very fast. So I vouch for it. Okay. So we're going to click on, you can click on visit over here, and this will actually go ahead and give you the application. So now if I was to go ahead and test this out, I could say testing. And then if I hit enter, let's go ahead and see what happens, right? So it's going to go ahead and search for it. Perfect. Awesome stuff. And I will show us actually how you can have the search come up here. I don't think I actually did that. So let's quickly go ahead and fix that. Very quick hot fix. And I'll show you how easy it is to deploy and what's really nice about it, right? So what we should actually have is when I've tested something. So let's go ahead and put in like a testing. See, this should be populated by default. So what we forgot to do there is firstly get rid of the console log here. And then what we wanted to do is have inside of the header, inside of our input, we actually should be doing the following. Okay, so inside of our input, we should have a default value, which should be the router query term. And then if I want to push it to this build, it's extremely simple to do that. Firstly, just to prove to you that it's going to push, I'm going to click on Vercel. I'm going to click on my build over here. And you can see right now it says created 2 minutes ago. What I'm going to do now is I've just made a slight change to my code. So very simply, I'm going to go ahead and I've changed 2 files. I've changed this file to the default value and this file to get rid of the console log. I'm going to go ahead and stage everything. So I'm going to say git add all. I'm going to say git commit. I'm just going to call this a bug fix. Let's go ahead and say bug fix. And then I'm going to push, right? Now, what's really nice about this is if I go ahead and just chuck this in, there we go. What's really, really nice about this is that if I go ahead and refresh now, what you'll see is, look, the bug fix branch has been pushed to master, which means it's actually going to go ahead, find the new branch and just start a redeployment. So technically what we have now is a CI pipeline, okay, which is insane, right? We have a CI pipeline and it's insane and it works, right? So if I click on view build logs here, we can actually see the upcoming build. And you can see right now, this is the previous build. And I'm going to click on Google Clone YouTube over here. And I'm going to click on deployments. Awesome. And it says building. At this point, you can see this is where it's building. I can go ahead and inspect it. I can view it and all sorts of stuff. If I click on this deployment, you can see it will go ahead and create the page, and it's uploading as we speak. And then look, it's done it. So it says ready. So if I visit this website, we should have that hotfix now. So if I go ahead and type in testing, hit enter, boom, aha, nice. All right, so you see how nice it is. And that actually turned out perfectly because I showed you how to go ahead and hotfix and how it pushes when you merge to your main branch. Okay, so this is extremely clean, extremely nice, and it works perfectly as we expect it to. Now, what I want to do is we have an amazing custom domain over at Hostinger. So I'm going to show you guys Hostinger right now. So you head over to Hostinger, pretty much going to go ahead and sign in. So I'm just going to quickly sign into my account on Hostinger. So what you want to do is quickly sign in. I'm going to sign into my Papa React team account. There we go. And then you'll reach your H panel on Hostinger. Okay. So remember, if you want to join Hostinger, use that link in the description. It will save you 7% off, which is a huge saving, and it's going to basically make your life a lot easier. Okay. Now I would love it. What would be really cool is that if you guys build this app, get your own custom domain, use that link, save yourself some money, and support the channel, guys. It is an affiliate link. It will help me out, right? And it keeps me bringing, it helps me allowed to do this full time, right? So I don't know what I was saying there, but it helps me do this full time. Okay. What we're going to do is I've got a custom domain right over here. This is the H panel. This is where you can pretty much customize everything. By far, Hostinger is the easiest H panel or control panel. Hostinger only have the H panel. Everything everywhere else has a C panel, which is always complicated. But I'm going to go ahead and click on manage my domain. Okay, this is where we basically do the magic to make the site that we built visible on our own custom domain. So this is our custom domain, in this case sunnysanger.com. I'm going to click on DNS name servers on the left. Okay, so I click this, and over here I can see manage DNS records, and it's so easy, guys. All I need to do is go to my Vercel. So I go to this bit over here. I go to the top, I click on Google Clone YouTube. I click on settings, and then here we can click on domains, right? And to connect this, all I would need to do is type in sunnysanger.com. Click add. And at this point, I've already got my settings linked, so it would actually verify immediately. But I'm going to go ahead and say Sunny Sanger test. Okay, just to show you. Otherwise, mine would immediately connect because I've already done it on my Vercel account. But at this point, you should see invalid configuration. Here we go. So what you want to do is you just need to go ahead and copy this value, go to your DNS records on your Hostinger account, and simply chuck it in here and click add record. There's nothing else you need to do. Okay, now what will happen is it will take about 24 hours max to propagate, right? So most times pretty much 24 hours, within 24 hours, sometimes it's been immediate, right? But once it propagates through the hosting and servers, it will now be connected to your Vercel. Okay, so with that said, what you will then get is on this screen, you'll get a green tick. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you how that will work. So if I typed in, let me go ahead and go to my previous deployment. So this was the previous deployment that I did, and I mapped it to sunnysanger.com, as you can see over here. And if I click on this, and then you will get a valid configuration tick. Okay, and then that would mean that you have successfully connected Hostinger, the domain name, the custom suite domain name, to your custom Google clone. Okay, which is awesome stuff, right? That's really, really nice, and really, really nice. So guys, this was incredible, right? This is really, really incredible. And Craig says, I already use Vercel NS records. I love it. Yeah, it's really clean. Honestly, they make it really easy to change your DNS records. And also, by the way, if you're wondering, they do use something like Cloudflare behind. So if you're scared about getting tons of bots to your website, they're going to go ahead and vet who comes to your site. So if you get like somebody trying to shut down your website or attack it, it's going to go ahead and protect you in that sense. Okay, so it's really, really nice. A lot of people are asking why we're not using Firebase in this case. It's okay to use other pieces of tech, guys. It's completely okay, right? This is a very, very powerful piece of tech, and it works. Now, to prove to you it works, on sunnysanger.com right now, you can see the app fully functional, fully working for yourself. So over on sunnysanger.com, you can see Google, and I'm going to give you guys a run through of what we built today. We built a fully functional Google clone, right? We had CSS Grid, Tailwind, we had Next.js server-side rendering, where if I type in testing, you guys can see perfect. We get these results. We had really nice kind of hover animations. We had transition elements happening. We had pagination, right? All happening in a clean build, okay? And this was using really, really like, sort of good. This was a really nice build because it covered a lot of fundamentals for you guys, which I think will benefit you quite a lot. Okay, now this wouldn't have been possible in the time. Having said that, if we hadn't used Tabnine, Tabnine always helps me out. It makes the coding experience so fast and fun. So I'd recommend, the reason why I support them as well is not just because they sponsor us, is because honestly it actually helps me. It doesn't slow me down. Right, it helps me, it speeds me up, it's supported by all programming languages, and their free tier takes you so far. With that said, guys, I hope you have enjoyed today's session. Okay, I hope we have enjoyed today's session, and this has been your boy Papa React. We are closing today's session with 1,200 likes, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And crazy level of support from you guys. If you are watching this and you've enjoyed it, please smash the thumbs up button. Consider subscribing. We love and appreciate all of you guys, and we hope that one day we can see you inside of Zero to Full Stack Hero, inside the Papa Fam inner community, right? And there we just push each other to be the best versions of ourselves. Consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. And guys, we hit 20,000 playbacks in this one live stream, which is incredible. This is going to be up on YouTube afterwards for you guys to go ahead and consume at your own speed. You can have your cup of tea and all that stuff while you do it. And I just want to say, yeah, this is your boy Papa React. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video, guys. Your boy is going to be dropping weekly from now on, so subscribe, bell, notification icon, share with your friends, all that good stuff. It's your boy, and yeah, as I said, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.
Feel good, feel great, can't complain. Look out my window, see birds and planes. Sun's out, some clouds, it might rain. Siblings on my nerves again. Summertime, go for a swim.